their next president of hockey operations, and a familiar face to the Tennessee Titans has retired today. Former punter Brett Kern announced his retirement after 15 years in the NFL, appearing in 223 games, and is the Titans' all-time leader in punts. This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3, The Game.
Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
A gun performance.
Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app. We are live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studio, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook. Download their app today and use promo code THEGAME. To get started today, I want to congratulate a certain Brett Kern on his retirement today. He will speak with national media at 1 o'clock. Congratulations to Brett Kern. What a career. I mean, a staple of Titans football for the longest time. So congratulations to Brett Kern.
Big congratulations to Brett Kern.
Kickers don't get, they get no love. And I can admit, I once upon a time hated all kickers. But I had to change
kickers
my
and
ways. No, you know what? I was partial to punters. Punters, punters,
okay.
We're good.
What's the beef with kickers?
Kickers, man, because I had bad experience with kickers. Everybody knows my beef with kickers. But punters, from Reggie Roby to Craig Hendricks, who else? Throw anybody else in there that has punted. I was cool with the punters. They were always cool people. It was the kickers. I loved Al, but Al, a few times Al made us all mad. But I love Al. I love Joe Nedney. Oh, do I love Joe Nedney. And Anderson. I love Anderson. The last second field goal in Baltimore.
It's a
You're
love-hate
talking about a
relationship.
man that was 50, what was he, 82 years old?
I think at least
He
75.
just came from Minnesota. He would come in and out, and he kicked the game-winning field goal in the playoffs to beat Baltimore.
And it made it over by about
1
1 yard.
It was just like the skin of the teeth.
You know how they have that thing now that said would have been good from 63
Right.
or whatever? That field goal would not have been good from any more than the distance. I can't remember. It was like 43 yards.
Yeah.
It was
Barely eked in
43.3.
there.
Oh, man.
But then you see some Justin Tucker kicks that are like, would have been
Yeah.
good from 87.
Exactly.
And it's like, okay, great, wonderful. Glad to hear that. But
Hey,
Brett
while we're on the
Kern,
congratulations,
congrats.
Yes,
big
absolutely.
congratulations to Brett. One thing we didn't get to do Tuesday because the Andrew Brunette news hit right at the beginning of the show. I meant to do it. But a quick congrats, and I know Chase had him on the show, but Joseph Newgarden, Nashville guy,
Yes.
Indy 500 champion. That is not small
congrats.
potatoes there. Now, he's won the overall series a couple of times, but that was one missing piece, and we knew it was going to happen at some point. He finally got it, got to do the milk celebration. Just another guy like Brett.
Yeah.
Great guy to have on the radio. Represents Nashville super well. Grew up in Hendersonville. He's a great story, but he's the best in the world. He's the best in the world, and he's from here. So big shout out to Joseph. So that's another thing we talk about our
Congrats,
podcast. Go to Chase and Michelle
Yeah.
if you want to hear a great conversation with Joseph Newgarden.
It was a great conversation.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Joseph Newgarden. Congratulations to Brett Kern. Congratulations all around. And congratulations to Andrew Brunette, who was introduced as the Predators head coach yesterday. And there were a few things that we had discussed going into the press conference of things that we wanted to hear, of the style of play that Andrew Brunette wants to play with. And that's something that he addressed. He didn't necessarily subscribe to the idea that he's an offensive head coach. He said, hey, when we got the puck, hold on to it. If you don't have the puck, get after it. And that's a pretty fair assessment of how he wants this team to play. And I like it. There are several other things that we had mentioned, but one thing that I was really looking forward to potentially hearing or maybe picking up on clues is how this dynamic between Barry Trotz and Andrew Brunette would work. given that Barry Trotz is really a head coach wearing a general manager's hat. Andrew Brunette is a fairly inexperienced head coach. He's got 70-something games under his belt as an NHL head coach, but also has front office experience. So they each have reps doing one another's jobs. How is that going to work between the two? And Barry Trotz and Andrew Brunette both went on with Jared Stillman yesterday afternoon, and Jared kind of asked him, hey, what's this dynamic looking like? Are you really kind of coach and GM here?
You're not the coach because you're higher up in the food chain than the coach, but you're still coaching.
I think that's what leadership does.
I think you're the senior coach.
Well, I'm going to let I've coached for a long time, so it'll take me a while. But I think when you hire leadership is coaching. When I'm in a different position. I'm a GM now. I'm going to help my coach and not in the coaching. If he asks me for help in terms of the coaching, I'll be all ears. And obviously I have that background. If someone in the office asks me, about something and it's something that I feel very passionate about and how we're going to do things, then I'm going to coach them that way. So I think I'll always have a coach in me. But I think I want to coach vision, and that's why what you do as a coach.
Do you?
No, I mean, he's right. You don't. It's tricky here with Trotzy, and you ask Trotzy the question, and he answers it, and he answers it in a way. Well, you ask it in a way because. I like when Jared asks questions sometimes, and he's sort of misleading.
He doesn't really beat around the bush.
He try to guide you to his answer. He tries to pull you over to his side. And Trotzy was almost there. Then he said, "No, I'm always be a coach in my mind." Yeah. But it's true. If you hired a guy, this is the only way this thing is going to work. Whether it be football, basketball, baseball, if you hire a guy. And this is your guy, and you're saying all these glowing things about him, you got to allow him to be the coach. And like Barry Trott said, now if he comes to me and asks me questions, then I'm going to give him answers based upon my history of being a coach. But that's not what I'm doing. I'm going to be a coach, period, because that's what we do as leaders. You try to coach. And Burnett's going to be a coach to his coaches. And his coaches are going to be coaches to the players. So it's a trickle-down effect. But Barry's like, listen, I'm always going to be in that mode of coaching, no matter what. But I'm not going to overstep. At least this is what I heard. I'm not going to overstep my boundaries unless he asks me. Now, if somebody in office asks me, then, okay, I can talk to them because they're not Burnett. But if Burnett doesn't ask me, I'm just going to sit back. But I'm sure there's going to be situations where Coach comes to Trotz and say, hey, what do you think about this? It's what I'm thinking about. What would you do if you're in this situation? And kind of bounce off ideas. But let's make no mistake. And I know he referenced the Spoelstra and Pat Riley thing. I think that's a little bit different. But let's make no mistakes. Burnett is the coach. He's the coach of this team. And if you want to have success, you got to allow the coach to coach. You can sit back and you may in your mind think of some things, but he is the coach. You are the GM. You are tasked to getting him the players. And I've always said, great GMs are great. Why? Because they hire great coaches. Great coaches are great. Why? Because they hire great assistant coaches. Players are great. Why? Because they listen to the coach. They are coachable. And then they take those things and they study and they do the things necessary. So let's make no mistake here. He's the coach. Mm-hmm. He's the GM. If you ask me a question, I would tell you what's on my mind. I'll let you know. But until then, I am going to do what a GM does to make sure I get the players that you need as a head coach so we can be as successful as possible.
Is that what you think should happen, or is that the vibe that you picked
That's
up?
That's the vibe I'm picking up.
I'm
not picking up anything other than that. I'm not going to try to look in too much into anything because to me, he he answered the question the way he felt he needed to answer the question. He answered it truthfully. Like, listen, if he asks me, I tell him, but I'm not going to be running down there knocking on his door every day or barging in. Hey, you need to do this. No, you need to do this. He even said it. Listen, after a game, I'm going to say, let's wait to talk about what we need to talk about. Let's wait. Give you 24 hours or 8 hours, whatever it is, calm down, and then come back to me and we'll talk. That's a GM talking. That's not a coach talking.
Yeah, I first of all, I thought from the press conference to some of the stuff that you saw in the, I guess in the media terms we would call it a scrum, right? They did a scrum with Andrew Burnett, different people asking different questions. And then Jared's interview, which I thought was, it was
a great interview.
I will get on Jared as much as anybody, but that I told him after I watched it. I got a chance to talk to Andrew Burnett, and that's going to come out on the website, I think, here soon. But Jared
here first.
Jared did an excellent interview with both those guys. He got a lot of stuff, and I think one thing we learned about Barry Trotz is we predicted he is going to go about it very differently than David Poyle, right? He's going to wear his heart on his sleeve a little more. He's going to be more conversational in interviews, and I think sometimes if there's anything, he's sometimes more revealing than some people think he should be, right? He's going to tell you. He's going to be honest with you. So I think this is going to be a very different dynamic between GM and coach, just because David Poyle would be the quintessential traditional general manager. And he had traditional coaches who had been lifelong coaches, right? If you look through those guys they weren't assistant GMs, hockey ops people. Andrew Burnett has had a very interesting variety of jobs since he stopped playing. He's been a scout. He's been an assistant GM. He's been an assistant coach. So he has looked at the game from different perspectives. When I was talking to him yesterday, the term he uses, I've watched the game from upstairs. It's a little different watching from upstairs than it is downstairs. So you've got to respect both sides, right? You learn things from watching both places. Barry Trotz is learning how to watch the game from upstairs. So I think when they talk about their collaboration, they're going to have to – I hope that these are strengths, right? These are Barry Trotz's understanding of what goes through a coach's mind. David Poyle doesn't have that perspective, never did. Doesn't make him a bad GM. He's one of the greatest GMs of all time. He's the winningest GM of all time. But there's different ways of going about it, and I think this will be a different formula for people to watch.
And that's a word that they use that I picked up on several times yesterday was collaboration. I believe it was Barry Trotz that said it, and Derek and I both looked at each other like, here we go again with the C word, with collaboration, another GM and coach collaboration in this town. But it really does feel like that's what it's going to be. And that's what I want to get into coming up next. Is that can be either a really positive thing for this team, that both Andrew Burnett and Barry Trotz can bring out the best in one another and being in each other's shoes. But how do we feel about it? How do we feel about that relationship, that dynamic, the collaboration between Andrew Burnett and Barry Trotz? We'll get into that coming up next. And, of course, your phones as well, 615-737-1025. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063 The Game.
Stuck at work without a radio?
Wait a minute. Disastrous.
I hate that.
It's got to be there.
That's okay. Download the Game Nashville app or go to thegamenashville.com and listen live. We are Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3. The Game.
Interest rates may be high everywhere else, but now at Genesis Diamonds, you can get zero interest on any purchase. 5 years, zero interest financing with nothing down. Beautiful eternity bands, 1-carat diamond stud earrings, and more. Starting at only $50 a month. At Genesis, we are always looking for ways to do more for our amazing customers. So don't miss this. 5 years, zero interest financing. Imagine that $6,000 designer ring is just $100 a month. We'll even finance the sales tax. Now through July 1st only. And only at Genesis Diamonds. Green Hills and Cool Springs. On approved credit, see store for details.
Time to save cash fast with the 102.5 The Game Deal of the Week. Get a $30 gift card to Central Barbecue for half off at thegamenashville.com/deals. A $30 gift card for just $15 at thegamenashville.com/deals. Smoke is our sauce at Central Barbecue. Visit their newest location in Hillsboro Village. Get them while they last at thegamenashville.com/deals.
Buffalo Bill's Center of the West in Cody, Wyoming welcomes you as you enter Yellowstone Park's east entrance. 5 museums in one, including a wonderful Plains Indian Museum. Welcome to the West. Buffalo Bill's Center of the West, Cody, Wyoming.
Family Leisure is having a come out and play sale. Hundreds of pools in stock and on sale. DIY pools start at only $16.99. 24-foot pools are only $29.99 installed in 7 to 10 days.
More than 100 spas in stock and ready for immediate delivery starting at only $29.99.
And Family Leisure has the Diamond Point Play Gym at only $24.99 installed, ready for immediate delivery.
Family Leisure is calling you to come out and play at both huge locations, Franklin and Antioch.
When Smashville wants to rock.
I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. Looking to the sky to save me, looking for a sign of life, 'cause it's too cold for you here.
We are Nashville's rock station. 102.9 The Buzz.
Anyone want to tell me what happened?
Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to thegamenashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
You're not the coach because you're higher up in the food chain than the coach, but you're still coaching.
I think that's what leadership does.
I think you're the senior coach.
Well, I'm going to let I've coached for a long time, so it'll take me a while. But I think when you hire leadership is coaching. When I'm in a different position. I'm a GM now. I'm going to help my coach and not in the coaching. If he asks me for help in terms of the coaching, I'll be all ears. And obviously I have that background. If someone in the office asks me, about something and it's something that I feel very passionate about and how we're going to do things, then I'm going to coach them that way. So I think I'll always have a coach in me. But I think I want to coach vision, and that's why what you do as a coach.
Do you?
That was Barry Trotz yesterday on Stillman and Company about the dynamic between he and Andrew Brunette. And look, it is not lost on me that old habits probably die very hard. And Barry Trotz might be feeling a little bit of that. He's been a lifelong coach. He's a career coach, and now he's moving into a different dynamic as the general manager. So it might be a little bit difficult for him to remove himself from the coaching duties and to focus on the front office duties. But a word that both he and Andrew Brunette used several times in the press conference yesterday is collaboration. Barry Trotz has been a coach. Andrew Brunette has been in the front office. They've each walked a mile in each other's shoes. So it does not surprise me in the slightest that these two would have a true collaboration. But do we like that dynamic?
Well, first I would say this, too. Let's not forget that even though they've known each other for so long, going back to when Andrew Brunette was 19 years old, that was a well-told story yesterday. They've both been a lot of different places since they last worked together, right? So Andrew Brunette has played for a ton of different coaches, been in a series of different spots, different perspectives. So he's learned a lot since he left Barry Trotz. It's not like, I don't know, take a Coach K guy, Johnny Dawkins, or Tommy Amaker, who spent 15 years alongside Mike Krzyzewski, never went anywhere else, and then went and did his own thing. Like he's learned one way to play. Andrew Brunette's learned several ways to go about it. So I do think that's part of it too. And since Barry Trotz has left Nashville, and he talked a lot about the Predator way, but he did his thing in Washington. He did his thing in New York with the Islanders. So he's learned some different things. So I think they're going to have to take some time to learn a little bit about each other, even though they know each other real well. It should be a comfortable place to start. A seamless is the term they used. You know, they can always go back and start talking about things because they've known each other so long. You guys probably have friends that you grew up with. you don't talk to for several years. Caroline, you're probably seeing some of them when all these weddings you're going to, right? You haven't seen them in a while, but you get together and it's just like you know,
like no time passed.
No time passed,
Yeah.
right? I think you hope for that, but I still think there's a learning process. Like, how is this going to work? They're both pretty new at this.
Yeah, they are, and you can tell by, you know, sort of Barry's hesitancy to sort of, you know, he starts to talk about it, but then he has to switch. Like, man, no, I'm the GM. You know, when Jared said, "Well, you can be the senior coach," he was like, "Well, no. I'm the GM. I'm always coach because that's in my mind." But I think Barry has to figure out very quickly the lines that or the boundaries that he sets for himself. This is not he's setting boundaries for Andrew Burnett. He has to figure out how to set boundaries for himself so that he doesn't overstep them into the coach's realm, even though that's all he knows. And he's going to continue to figure that out as he goes. So it's going to be a learning process for him as far as being a GM and not overstepping, you know, the boundaries of a GM, allowing my coach to coach. And if he has any questions, then he can then come and ask me. I think it's going to be something that's going to be, you know, ongoing. It's going to be a process that they're going to have to work diligently on because, like we've said, Barry has been a coach. That's all he knows, you know. And it's going to be hard then for him to, you know, all of a sudden just turn his back on that, you know, just because he's the GM. He has to figure out, okay, these are my boundaries. And how do I stay within my boundaries without overstepping them and sort of, you know, overshadowing the head coach? Because we know how this is going to end. I mean, not end, but knew how this is going to be at the beginning. You know, everybody's going to ask, well, was that a Barry decision? Did Barry want to do this? Did he want to do that? It's going to be that way. That's why Barry has to, the boundaries that he set, he has to allow himself to stay within those boundaries.
I think that's a great point, and I think you have to sort of let it be natural. I think there's a lot of different ways that a relationship builds between coach and GM. For example, I used to hear this a lot. You know, David Poyle and Barry Trotz, they would have dinner on the road many times the night before the game. You know, that was just kind of their ritual.
Cute.
Peter Laviolette was not as comfortable with that. He wanted a little bit more space. It wasn't the same. Still, they won a lot of games, right? It worked. So, David, it's not like you sit there and you take offense to it. You have to have, you just kind of read the room. You read the person, and you build your relationship from there. You can have a good working relationship even if you're not, quote-unquote, tight, good friends, you know, whatever you want to say, besties. So there's different formulas. I think you could find a lot of examples around the league that it works one way over here. It works a completely different way in another spot. Different ways to go about it.
There's no formula, I don't think. I think the best thing is what works for you, what works for me, what works for us, what's best for the team. And you don't figure that out overnight. You can't use a pre-existing equation to figure out what that is. It truly does take time and mutual understanding and mutual respect. And I'll apply the same, I guess the right word here is concern, to this relationship that we talked about whenever Rand Carthon was announced as the Titans general manager. And it's something that you brought up, D-Mase. And it's, well, if there is a true collaboration, I think that can be a very positive thing. But sometimes you can get in the murky waters of, is this my job? Is this your job? If I do it, am I stepping on your toes? Is there going to be a little bit of butting of heads? Because a collaboration means that there aren't clear defined lines. But what I don't want to do is compare the dynamics between Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon and Andrew Burnett and Barry Trotz, because while it might feel similar or maybe the exact same on the surface, I think there are two very key differences between those two. And with the Predators, I think that the pre-existing relationship between Andrew Burnett and Barry Trotz is very important because I think they're starting 3 or 4 steps ahead of Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon. Not that I don't think that there isn't a ton of mutual respect between Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon, because I know that there is. It's just different when you've known somebody for 30 plus years and you already have that relationship and that connection.
Yeah, and it's the difference to me, which is interesting, is Barry Trotz was a mentor to a very young Andrew Burnett. And it's a traditional GM hires the coach, whereas Vrabel was sort of, he's the mentor, right?
almost
Ray
backwards.
Carthon is younger.
Yeah.
He's looked up to Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel was part of the hiring process of Ray Carthon. So that's a definitely a different dynamic,
And
right?
that's the
It doesn't mean
difference.
they both can't collaborate,
Right.
but it's different.
And that's the difference. I think with the Titans, it was almost a little muddy of who has final say, who's doing the drafting, because the coach helped hire the GM, but those are GM duties. I think here with the Predators, the roles are more clearly defined. That Barry has final say. Barry is doing the drafting. Barry is doing, the personnel. Barry's doing the trading. That does not mean that Andrew Brunette does not have say in it, or they're not going to work on it together, but I think it's very clear who has final say. So it's already starting out to be maybe a more clearly defined collaboration than what we have become accustomed to with the Tennessee Titans.
Well, traditional GM head coaching sort of role is, you go out, you scout, scouts do their job, GM do their job. They bring these players, the name of these players. Listen, we've scouted these players. Now we all need to sit down and sort of give our thoughts on each individual player. And obviously, the GM has to make sure he knows a little bit about all players. And the coach sort of sit backs and he listens. And he may have seen some of these players. He may have not. But he knows what works for the team that he's coaching and how he loves to coach. Well, if that is indeed the case, then the GM should know how to coach coaches. He should know what the coach needs. He should know the players, the personalities that he needs on his team. So that's where the collaboration is. It's not like, and I see it the same way with Trotzy and Coach Burnett. It's not like Trotzy has like all the power. It's I know what my coach needs because we communicate. So, yeah, I may be going to get the players, but I'm only going to get the players that the coach wants. We heard that from David Poyle at the end of Hines. Listen, and I think that's what's going to be the difference. Now, I think Trotzy is going to be more collaborative with the head coach. Like, what do you need? Let me know what you need. We saw it, like I said, we saw it later with Poyle. Listen, I'm going to get the guys that Hines needs and then kind of go from there. Well, you're going to see that from the jump. And you're going to see it not because Trotzy has all the power, but because he wants to win and he knows exactly what the coach needs. So it's not like, I'm going to get the players I need. No, I'm going to get the players that we need. Why? Because this guy's told me who he wants to coach and what he needs after evaluating all these guys. And we both may be thinking the same thing. Or we both may be thinking the same thing, but not at the same time. Whereas he may say, well, man, listen, we need another forward or wing guy. And Barry may be saying, no, we need another defenseman. Not that he doesn't believe we need another defenseman, but he's saying, well, right now, I believe we need this. And Trotzy's saying, well, no, I know we need that. And I know that we need it, but I think bringing a defenseman in right now at this particular time may work better. But it's not like, it's not like I'm overstepping and saying, no, we're not going to get those guys. But based on the team, based on the money probably, maybe we need to get this guy first and then we get that guy. That's collaboration. That's not saying I have an upper hand over you. It's just I know what you need. I know you need all three of them, but it might be easier getting this defenseman first before we get the other guys.
And let's discuss the process.
Exactly.
I think we can all agree, there's going to be a lot of shared roles, a lot of collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's one job that is very clearly defined as Andrew Burnett's role. And I think it might be one of the most important jobs that he has to do this season. And we'll explain coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The offseason is in full swing, but there's no slowing down ESPN's Teron Davenport.
The flow of information.
He talks the talk.
Spears gives you that guy that can still hit the home run.
And walks the walk.
As a run blocker, he's going to murder a linebacker at the second level.
On everything Titans. TD is on Mondays at 1, Thursdays at 3, Friday mornings at 8, and anytime on the Talkin' with TD podcast. TD is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
You enjoy the thrill of gambling, but what happens when it becomes a problem? Whether you want to cut back or quit gambling altogether, the Gambling Clinic has been helping people change their gambling for over 2 decades. We're here to help, not to judge. The Gambling Clinic is a Tennessee-based clinic offering in-person and telehealth support to help people win back their life. Visit us at thegamblingclinic.com. This project is funded by the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services.
The spring menu is here at Kitchen Notes in the Omni Nashville Hotel, featuring their signature cast iron pie with herb roasted chicken, English peas, carrots, potato, simple greens, and a toasted biscuit crumble topping. Or garden succotash with snap peas, black-eyed peas, roasted peppers, sweet corn, tomato, and caramelized onion. Or try the steak fritas with pan-seared ribeye. Kitchen Notes in the Omni Nashville Hotel, open daily till 2 with brunch Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 7 till 2.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willy Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Hey, it's Jared. If you're listening to us on I-24 towards Murfreesboro or I-65 towards Spring Hill, make sure you check out 106.3 for another great way to hear Nashville's best sports talk.
Hey Nashville, it's Max Kellerman, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Do you get a chance to decompress now? Or, like, are you starting tomorrow to go to watch Milwaukee play in the finals? or because I just remember when I went to Anaheim, I didn't know anybody in the West. And you've been in the East for the last couple of years. Sometimes you just don't get to know the players unless you start talking to them right away.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't really get to decompress probably going in for it. It's really important, especially as you know, in this day and age, and kind of learn a lot off you that way with the communication with the players. I remember on your blackboard saying you got to make sure you talk to every or have a piece of every player every day. And that's something I took from you, Bruce. So I think for me, trying to get into constant communication right away, especially in today's world and today's game, we need to talk. We need to understand each other to build relationships, to build trust, to build connection. So I think it starts right away. Fortunate, a lot of people want to live in Nashville, so there's quite a few guys here. And that process will start tomorrow, and get to know these guys here going forward will be really important for me going, into training camp this year.
That was the Predators' new head coach, Andrew Brunette, with Bruce Boudreau on the NHL Network. And he highlights something that is going to be one of his priorities that I think maybe has lacked with John Hines.
I think definitely last season this is something. Now, just to put it in context there, you had Jackie Redmond from NHL Network. Awesome. Mike Rupp, former teammate. And Mike Rupp and Andrew Brunette, I think if you put their careers together, they probably play with like 75% of the players at one point or another. I mean, those are guys that just are good team guys, and they were together in Minnesota. And Bruce Boudreau was the person that asked him the question that you heard there, who is coached in a lot of places, but he had Andrew Brunette in Minnesota. So I think that was a valuable time for Andrew Brunette. And something really jumped out at me in that answer, and that was he learned from Bruce Boudreau, who is known really as a communicator. He's not a deep X's and O guy. He's more known for being the, quote, player's coach. And Andrew Brunette took something from him that he mentioned, and he gave him credit for it, that on the board every day is connect with every player every day, or whatever words he used there. And he said, I got that from you, Bruce. I think that's an important point. And it really made me think of, okay, so what would be a huge priority for this particular Predators team? We know, if you look at the last 2 or 3 years, when Philip Forsberg and Matt Duchene are playing really well, engaged, this team is a whole lot better. And I think you could say that about any team and say, give me the top 2 or 3 players under contract who make the most money. If those guys aren't playing well, probably have some issues as a team.
Stars need to
You're
be stars.
probably having some issues. It's not easy to overcome that. A couple years ago, in the shortened season, they did overcome it. Those guys did not have good years. Forsberg and Duchesne specifically. I shouldn't single those 2 out because you could throw other guys in there. Johansson for sure, other guys on a particular year. And they sort of found a way to get to the playoffs. And that's the year they lost to Carolina. And then the following year, those 2 guys had fantastic years. And they made the playoffs when nobody thought they were going to make the playoffs. They each had over 40 goals. They're the top. Those are the top 2 goal-scoring seasons in franchise history. And you see the difference that it made. Last year, it was a drop-off. Injuries were a big part of it for Forsberg. But even, I think he would tell you, and I heard him talk to Chase about this yesterday in the scrum, he was a little inconsistent even when he was in there. It wasn't his best going on. Matt Duchesne, same way. He wasn't having a great year even before he had the season-ending injury late. So getting the most out of those 2 guys will be huge. And I do think it's fair to say that was a challenge for John Hines. It was kind of an up-and-down thing. When they were on the same page, and I would say 2 years ago they were, this past year I think there was a little disconnect. There was some frustration back and forth between John Hines and some of the veteran players, like those 2 in particular. And I think that's a project for Andrew Brunette to see if he can kind of fresh start, re-energize, a little different system. Can you get more out of those guys? Everybody sort of took their phone out, and it was really locked in when Andrew Brunette went over and introduced himself to Philip Forsberg. A lot of the guys, he mentioned it at the end of that quote there were a lot of players that came to the press conference. That was their first time meeting Andrew Brunette. Pretty interesting little thing there.
Yeah, you got to have that that communication with players. I think more than anything, as a player, you want to feel as if, not so much your position coach, because you're talking to your position coach all the time. You have a relationship built with your position coach. You want to be seen and heard by the head coach. You want to feel as if he knows what you're going through and he understands the day-to-day of what a player goes through. And he's going to, verbalize that to you, whether it be just talking to you, and it doesn't always have to be about hockey. You look at what Mike Vrabel's doing. They don't love Mike Vrabel because he's a hell of a X's and O's coach. Mike has hired good coaches around him for the most part. They like
not
Mike.
All of them.
Yeah, not all of them. I said for the most part.
I know. I'm messing with you.
But they will run through a wall because of the communication he has with all of them. He makes it a priority. He said it. He makes it a priority. You don't walk down the halls without us talking. We don't do that. Walk by one another and don't say anything. I'm going to ask you about your family. I'm going to ask you how you're doing. Because I want to make sure the lines of communication are open so you can come and talk to me about anything. That's how I treat my kids. It's like, listen, the line of communication will always be open. You can say whatever you need to say, but say it respectfully. Well, that's good for the kids because now we feel we got a voice. We got a line of communication. It's the same way with players. That's all we want. It's like, I want to be able to talk to that guy. I don't want him to be on his ivory tower and us walk around on eggshells when he comes down the hall, the head coach. No, we want to be able to, conversate with him, kid with him, do all the things that we would do with just anybody in the building because we're all here to do the same thing. And I think for Burnett, that's going to have to be the main objective for him right now is to connect with these players. Because if you don't connect with these players, I don't care how good of a coach you may seem to be or may be or hope to be, you ain't going to get nothing out of them. You're not, because you're not connecting with them. You may get something out of them every now and then, but if you want to get consistent play out of these guys, you got to connect with them consistently.
And I will say this about John Hines, because I know.
And I'm not saying he didn't do that.
That's what I would point out. Uh-huh. I think he put a lot of effort into that part of it. And for whatever reason, it just didn't go as smooth. Like, I think he really, the hard part was I think he really felt like he took the time to get to know those guys, do all those things you were saying. Like during COVID, remember how tough it was for John Hines. He comes in, takes over a team that's kind of broken, going nowhere. It seems like really scuffling. And then he gets them going a little bit, and then COVID hits, and nobody can be together. There's no meetings, nothing. He's just getting to know the guys, and then all of a sudden he can't be near them. So that was a very difficult challenge that extended all the way through the next year. So he had some hurdles that he had to try to overcome to build those relationships where he'd say, hey, just come into my office. Well, you weren't allowed to come into the office. You had to go on a Zoom, or you had to, sit on somebody's porch or something, which I think he tried to do. But, sometimes the personalities, the system, it just doesn't sustain for whatever reason. And look, if it doesn't go well with Brunette, I mean, at some point you start looking at the players and say, oh, wait a minute. Now, okay, here's your chance. You got a new guy, and you still have the same issues. What's the deal? This could be on you. Like you always say this, Derek, it should be on the player to motivate himself, regardless of who the coach is. You got to take a certain amount of responsibility.
You got to take responsibility for that.
There is part of it that is on Forsberg, Duchesne, and Johansson. Like, look, you're big boys. You've been playing this game for a long time now. You're going to have to motivate yourself. You're going to have to get yourself up. You're going to have to get over whatever qualms or whatever's going on with the coach. But you can't fire all the players. So at least this is a new start, a new perspective, a new relationship, maybe a newfound respect for the head coach. And I think that this applies to every team in every sport. You want your coach to relate to the players on a personal level. I believe the words that Andy Burnett said was, take a piece away from each of your players. You want that in every coach and player relationship. I think that in every team, in every sport, you need your star players to be stars. You need your highest paid players to be your highest producers. But I think those two things combined equal one of the Predators' biggest downfalls, or the reason why the Predators were held back maybe from their full potential, was the stars weren't being stars. And maybe the relationship with the coach was part of it. I don't think it's all of it, and I don't think it's all on John Hines, but I do think that there is was a clear maybe division in that relationship that came to fruition on the ice.
Yeah, I don't know what word you use, but it just wasn't.
Tension?
It wasn't a full mesh. Like the power play would be an example, right? And again, Dan Lambert takes the fall, right? Barry Trotz went out of his way yesterday to say Dan Lambert is a good coach. 2 years ago, he was a genius. The power play was number 6 in the league.
Yeah.
Last year, they could not find a way to get the power play going. And so that creates challenges. It's tough on relationships. When you go through adversity, good coaches, good players, you just can't, you get stuck. You can't find it. But that had to be a source of it, right? Just if they had the same success on the power play, the season could have been a very different story for sure. But this is what happens, unfortunately, in sports. It doesn't mean you have it's a bad coach or bad plan, things like that. It just happens sometimes, and that was an example. And so just that cohesiveness was not there.
One texter text in the text line, our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com, says Johansson and Duchesne are awful. How can you be a veteran and supposed leader and require motivation? They're way overpaid. I can't blame Hines for that. That's true. I mean, the amount of money that they make is not on John Hines. All John Hines can do is take what David Poile gave them. I don't think that those players are awful. I don't think that they're awful. I do think that they are overpaid.
Well, I mean, okay.
The production does not equal the amount of money that they make.
What I'm saying is, they were not overpaid a few years ago. That's just how it was. That's just how baseball, hockey,
the market,
these contracts that are guaranteed contracts. See, we could say that in football because majority of the contract is not guaranteed. And what happens in football?
It's fluff
when
money.
you don't match the production, don't match the money, they're getting rid of you. They can't do that, and it's harder to do in hockey. So when we say, well, he was overpaid, well, was he overpaid last year when he had 40 goals? No. Well, he's overpaid this past season because he had under that didn't play. The guys that didn't have stellar seasons once again didn't double down. Well, now all of a sudden, now they're overpaid because of what they didn't do this season. Well, they were not overpaid last season.
But the entirety of their career since they earned those contracts has not lived up to the amount of money that they have made. I would say Duchesne 2 years ago got the closest to living up and to earning that contract that he did make.
But what I'm saying is this: when they sign those contracts, obviously the GM, the organization that has said, "Hey, listen, we're going to give you this money," because they felt that they deserved it.
Yeah.
Now,
in the market,
exactly.
It's the market.
What they're
You're competing
hoping
with
is
all the other teams too. For
exactly.
those guys.
What they're hoping is they hold on to that worth for as long as possible. They know in 6 years, they didn't sign a 10-year contract. They know in 7 years from now, after they had already played 5 or 6, they know in 7 years from now, he's not going to be the same player, but they're hoping that he's close to it, that he doesn't fall off the cliff, you know? So we can't, we can say they're overpaid now, but they were not overpaid when they got the money compared to what they're doing now. I get it. What they're doing now compared to the money that they're making, I would say they're overpaid. We all would say it. But when they signed that contract, nobody screamed they were overpaid. I don't think a lot of people screamed that, Duchesne is overpaid or Johansson is overpaid.
That's an interesting one.
Forsberg is overpaid.
I don't think Forsberg is overpaid. But I think Johansson and Duchesne
at this point, yeah.
But the entirety of their production since they got those contracts does not equal what it should be.
I will buy that.
Okay,
but I will say
what
that
it should be because when they signed those contracts, did they have career years when they signed those contracts? They were projecting that they will continue to get better, and it's been up and down, up and down.
Johansson was certainly at a stage where he was playing the best that he had played, and he would have had the leverage to get that kind of deal elsewhere if he didn't get it here. I think that's a big part of it, right? It's when you hit the market, what's your age, you're coming off of the last couple of years. That's a big, big thing. And Duchesne was the same thing. Like he was one of the best free agents on the market at the time, so he had a lot of leverage. I mean, you could argue they had to overpay if they wanted to get him, right?
Yes, I would agree.
But I agree with what you're saying.
Thing.
Since they've signed those contracts, there's no question
they haven't lived up to it. I get that.
Whereas a guy like Yossi, Forsberg, those guys, and some of the contracts they were on before, they far exceeded the previous contract they were under.
Right, exactly. And that's a realistic thing in sports. Sometimes you got to overpay to land the guy. We're talking about that with DeAndre
Either that
Hopkins.
or you don't have him.
But you can't pay a guy a certain dollar amount and expect him to be that if he just isn't. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Really liking how open of a book Barry Trotz is. And we'll explain exactly what I mean by that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025-1063 The Game.
1025 and 1063 The Game has an all-star lineup Monday through Friday. Batting first at 6 a.m., it's Robbie and Rexroad.
Yeah, you take that. You take that. Take 80% of that.
Followed by Chase and Michelle at 9.
Couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
I need my caffeine so much.
Then it's Caroline, Willy, and D-Mace at 11.
Yep, green light, let's go.
You've got a lot of options.
He say, she say. And bringing it home at 2, Jared Stillman for Stillman and Company.
That guy will be a good coach.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, 1025 and 1063 The Game.
Men, at the Tennessee Men's Clinic, our urologists and providers have been helping guys with erectile dysfunction and other sexual health issues for years. And unlike some, at the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we take a comprehensive approach to your sexual health. Our sole focus is to treat ED and related conditions. ED can be affected by a bunch of things, from hormones, prostate issues, medical conditions, and even simply aging. The fact is, most guys experience it at some point in life. If you're suffering with ED, it's extremely important to see a provider that understands how your medical conditions, hormone levels, and other factors can impact your ability to have sex. That's why you should come to the Tennessee Men's Clinic, where we have treatments that are effective in nearly 90% of cases. I can't tell you how many guys we've seen that thought their situation was hopeless, only to be wildly surprised. So give us a call today. We'll do some blood work with a T-check and a medical consult to give you the best shot at success. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. We have 2 offices, Midtown and Franklin.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra, results vary.
High interest rates may be the norm everywhere else. But right now at Genesis Diamonds, we're always thinking about our customers, and we've decided to slash interest rates down to 0% for 5 years. That means you can get those diamond earrings, that designer engagement ring, or that luxury pre-owned Rolex and spread your payments over 5 whole years without paying a dime in interest. Birthdays, anniversaries, just because gifts starting as low as $35 a month. And that's with 0 down. Now through July 1st only. And only at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. Approved credit. See store for details.
Okay, outdoor summer cocktail party fit check. I've got a hot pink and orange bodycon dress paired with vintage sneakers. It'll definitely attract attention, but not from mosquitoes, because I'm wearing it with Off Clean Feel for 8 gorgeous hours of not sticky, fragrance-free protection. So I can sip, socialize, and flirt out there in the wild with absolutely unshakable confidence. Get your pre-party protection on with Off Clean Feel. S.C. Johnson, a family company.
Nashville's radio version of The Odd Couple.
This number makes more sense.
It does not make more sense.
It's absolutely.
Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexrode are Robbie and Rexrode.
Yay, we win. We don't. We lose. No, I disagree.
Robbie and Rexrode. Mornings from 6 to 9.
If you're good enough, you're good enough. It's absurd.
Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
But you don't envision moving one of those guys to create something, to pick one guy and then use the other guy to help shore up the rest of the team.
We can. I'm not saying we won't. I think that's an opportunity, but you need the right dance partner. If someone came to me and said, listen, I'll give you the third or fourth pick in this draft, and if I'm looking for this and this, be it one being one of those goalies, then we have to think about it for sure, because that's your opportunity to get that maybe game-changing centerman.
Barry open book trots. Barry, what do you want to know, Trots? Barry, I will give all of my secrets out, Trots. And you know what? I appreciate it. That was Barry Trotz yesterday on Stillman and Company discussing the goalie situation. Barry Trotz said, hey, nothing's off the table. We got to have the right dance partner in reference to potentially trading away a UC Saros or a Lankinen or a Skarov. It's, hey, we will listen. If you want to pick up the phone, I'll answer it. I might not necessarily say yes, might not necessarily go through with a trade, but hey, if we have the right dance partner, anything's on the table.
Yeah, I mean,
openness and clarity into the situation that I don't think we always expect to get with coaches or GMs.
Yeah, but I think Barry has been around long enough, and he knows in sort of this generation of, media and, players and leagues that, being transparent to a degree, especially now when nothing's really, I say, at stake, and I mean that loosely, like nothing at stake, but there is, because players are coming in and stuff like that. You're building a team.
Nothing immediate.
Nothing immediate, absolutely. Thank you, Caroline. So he can be a little bit more transparent in what he's saying. And I don't think he's saying anything, any different than I think any other GM would say, like that particular part. Like, listen, if somebody comes to me and want to offer the second or third pick in the draft, I'm going to listen. I'm not going to sit here and say, no, I ain't going to listen because it's UC or Skarov or Lankinen. No, I'm not going to listen. Those are our guys. Yeah, there are guys, but I'd be a fool to not listen to somebody if they, if they come to me, hey, listen, we got the second or third pick in the draft, and we're thinking about one of your goalies. Now, it may take a little bit more than the second pick in the draft to get UC, but, Lankinen, it may take something else. Or Skarov, it may take something else. But I am not shutting the door. I would be a fool as a new GM to shut the door on anything before it even got started.
A lot of GMs do.
I don't think they necessarily shut the door, but they...
I do not foresee trading A.J. Brown.
Yeah, but they sort of... They don't want to be transparent. It's not like they're closing the door to anything. They just don't want to give you a peek behind the curtain. You know,
Yeah.
if they give you a peek behind the curtain, everybody behind the curtain may be saying, "Yeah, we'll do that." Yeah. But for y'all, no. We
I'm
don't
not
sort of
talking to you about it.
exactly.
Yeah.
But Barry's like, listen, he's giving you a peek behind the curtain right now. Like, listen, if somebody come to us with a deal like that, we are going to listen.
Yeah, it's funny. Some coaches are like that too. I just heard a conversation. It was a great interview previewing the Stanley Cup Finals. Bruce Cassidy, they were talking to a guy who covers the Golden Knights. He said Bruce Cassidy, their new coach, and he's a big story, right? They called him the open book, right? In media sessions, he will give you a lot of detail. His predecessor, Pete DeBoer, who they just beat for Dallas, is a, quote, lawyer. much more calculated on what he's going to say, how he's going to say it. A little more Vrabelese, right?
Right.
And then you got people like Peter Laviolette who are just, that curtain is not opening.
No.
It's an iron curtain, right? You're not seeing behind the curtain. I'm not letting you back there. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're around here every day. You're not coming behind that curtain. It's funny. Everybody's got their thing. But like Chase sent us a clip too. He asked Barry in the scrum about could you possibly be interested in a veteran on another team that is up against the salary cap crunch? And he gave a long answer. Absolutely, I'll take a look at it. I mean, it's just how Barry is going to operate. That's Barry Trotz, and you love that about him. And I do wonder, as he learns the nuances of being a GM, when's the right time to do that, and when do you not show people behind the curtain?
And is that Barry Trotz's way of putting up a for sale sign in Bridgestone Arena's yard? Or is that just, hey, this is what I'm thinking. I'm coming in, I'm new, and I'm
flexibility, right?
Anything's open.
He's got options. I think that's what he has enjoyed pointing out is David Poile has left him a good hand to play with all of the draft picks and the fact that they move some salaries and they have the ability to either add cap space or not. There are some teams that have no draft picks and they have no salary cap space. That's a tough hand to play if you're the GM.
And I think it's a good thing that Barry Trotz. It's the same thing when we were talking about the draft. Are the Titans shopping Derrick Henry? Are the Titans shopping Ryan Tannehill? Are the Titans calling around about the first overall pick? We've all said, well, let Rand Carthon do his due diligence. See what it would take. See what people want. Test the market. Put your foot in the water. Test it out. That very much so can be what Barry Trotz is doing. But from the player perspective, how do you feel? You know, if you're UC Saros and you hear Barry Trotz saying, hey, anything's on the table as long as we got the right dance partner, I think they all understand that this truly is a business, but that might put, the red flag up and say, look, nobody's safe. We got a whole new regime in here.
Yeah. Another thing that he said that I thought was interesting and maybe a peek behind the curtain.
Yeah.
He said to Jared, and I think he also said it in the scrum, was he is open to taking some of these draft picks, and he said, I'm telling our scouts, I want people who have a high ceiling, basically. I don't know if he used that term, but he was like, I think the term he used with Jared was, or maybe in the scrum was, I want players that have the fans coming out of their seat. Well, every team wants those, right? But he's got the ability with all the draft picks to maybe maneuver and target guys like that in the draft. And it's a crapshoot, right? A guy at 17, 18, when you draft him, might look like that guy, but when he's 21, 22, he doesn't turn into that guy. That's the risk. Like, all scouts are like, yes, I know. We all want those guys, coach. It's like obvious. But there's also like a conservative approach to a draft where you say, okay, I know this guy is really likely to play in the NHL, but he may not be a superstar, but it's still a guy you can win with. Well, and then you might have a little more risk of a guy that's this guy, maybe he's a little immature, but boy, he's got some skills. Man, if he develops, he could be that guy. And it's hard if you don't have the pick. But he was saying, look, I could be talked into packaging a lot of these picks if I could move up and be more likely to get a guy like that.
It seems to me like Trotzy is sort of like Bill Belichick, and I think I heard Bill say this.
He said it behind the curtain, probably.
Don't tell me what he can't do. Tell me what he can do and coach him up even better on that. Don't tell me what he can do, what he can't do. I don't want to hear what he can't do. What he can do is help this team. So whatever he can do well, coach that up till you can't coach it up no more, because ultimately he's going to help us. I'm sure that's probably sort of that Trotsy's feel like, listen, it's almost like he's saying, let's take a chance. Let's take a chance on some guys. You know, let's take a swing on a few guys. Tell me what they can do. Find that guy that you believe can be an outstanding player. Show me what he can do, and then coach him up on that. I don't want to hear about what he can't do. If he fits this team, tell me what he can do, coach him up on that, and let's go.
The other part of what he said, he just, I'll find the third and fourth line.
Exactly.
Barry Trotz has made a living. I mean, starting when he was the expansion coach of the Predators, and they had the scrap heap, right? They had the cast-offs from the other team. He got those guys to overachieve. You can do that. That's a little easier, but at the end of the day, to win big, you've got to have the high-end guys that are the game changers, right? And so that's really, I think, what he was saying. He's like, I think we can find the role players. He likes the number of prospects coming through. Milwaukee plays again tonight, but he goes, I want that game changer at the top of the lineup. That's what has been hard to find. It's hard to find for everybody, but especially, and this was
But you're going to have to take a chance on some guys.
You might have
to. If you do that,
yeah.
you got to take a chance
That's
on some
right.
guys.
Big day for the Nashville Predators yesterday, introducing Andrew Brunette as the new head coach. But we also had Titans OTAs yesterday as well. Drinking news from a fire hose over here. People, keep up. So let's pivot into the Titans. Some takeaways from Titans OTAs yesterday. We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The postseason is here. Whether it's the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs or the NBA, we have you covered on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Hi, this is former Tennessee Titans quarterback Neil O'Donnell. On the field, I always wore a helmet and pads to make sure I was protected. Life is no different. That's why I got vaccinated and boosted against COVID-19. Protection keeps you in the game. Talk to your doctor and get the information you need to make the informed choice. Gear up, Tennessee. Protect yourself and your family against COVID-19 today.
For more information, go to NFLAGearUp.org/Tennessee.
Now, your Game Center update.
I'm Nick Keyser. The Nashville Predators continue to get situated this offseason as they have now landed on their next head coach in franchise history, naming Andrew Brunette the next bench boss for the Preds. And at his introductory press conference yesterday, he was asked about his style of coaching ahead of next season.
I think my philosophy of how I see the game is I kind of want to dominate the puck, and I want to have it as much as I can have it, and I don't want to chase around too much. So it's not really offensive. It's just more when you have it, keep it, and when you don't have it, get it back as soon as possible, where I don't want to defend.
Meanwhile, in Pittsburgh, the Penguins have made their next hire, bringing in former Toronto Maple Leafs general manager Kyle Dubas as their next president of hockey operations, and a familiar face to the Tennessee Titans has retired. Punter Brett Kern has announced his retirement after 15 seasons in the NFL, appearing in 223 contests, and is the Titans' all-time leader in punts. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 102.5 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUZ HD2 Laverne.
Bobby and Rex Road. Chase and Michelle.
Caroline, Willy, D-Base.
Stone Company.
Nashville's best sports talk.
Crank it up.
102.5 and 106.3.
Rank City scores. On both sides of the one big possession. Touchdown, Middle Tennessee.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. We're live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, and we are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook. Download their app today and use promo code THEGAME. And hey, join 1025 The Game for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament presented by Gary Force Acura, benefiting Souls for Souls on Wednesday, June 7th at Hermitage Golf Course. Put your team together and come play with athletes, musicians, and other local celebs to support a great cause and have loads of fun. So if you want to support Souls for Souls, but you can't come golf with us, then check out our silent auction items. Just go to thegamenashville.com/golf for more information. The Titans hit the field for OTAs yesterday. We could not be there with the Predators press conference, so Nick Suss of the Tennessean will join us in 15 minutes. We'll get his breakdown of what he saw at Titans OTAs. But there are a bunch of things that stood out to me, reading people's reports, looking through the tweets from Tron Davenport and Paul Kaharski and all of our colleagues here at 1025 The Game. But one thing that really stood out to me was the reaction to Will Levis's day. And I'll go to Nick Suss's article in the Tennessean from his 4 takeaways. One of them is there still clearly isn't a quarterback battle. Says veteran Ryan Tannehill has been labeled the Titans starting quarterback all offseason, including in the hours after the Titans used a second-round draft pick on Kentucky product Will Levis. So Levis and Willis battled bouts of inconsistency and inaccuracy, each making impressive throws and showing strong ability to make plays moving outside the pocket, but struggling to maintain top form. Overall takeaway from that is you saw some good things, you saw some bad things. One of Will Levis's biggest issues in college was consistency. So it does not surprise me that on May 31st, Will Levis was showing signs of inconsistency. It doesn't bother me that Will Levis maybe didn't have the best day in practice yesterday. It's still early. At this point in time, Ryan Tannehill is your starting quarterback, and this is kind of a redshirt year for Will Levis. Sit on the bench, grow, learn from Ryan Tannehill. So I've seen a lot of panic button pushing and red flag waving of Will Levis's day yesterday, and you please correct me if you think I'm wrong. I'll be concerned when I need to be concerned. Right now, I'm just not concerned. And we weren't there. We didn't see it. But just based off of people's reactions and evaluations of the day, I'm just not concerned.
I can tell you right now, I didn't have to be there. And I can tell you that. Just relax. What we're a couple of days into OTAs. The man just got the playbook in his hand. He just got finished, crying in his hallway because he got drafted by the Tennessee Titans in the second round. Okay, this is new to him. All of this is new to him. So I didn't have to be there to know to just relax. If he had a great day, relax because he's going to have a bad day. He's had a bad day. Relax because he's going to have a really good day. Okay? This is nothing more than, and they're there, and these are some good journalists, and they're just putting together what they're seeing. But you just want to caution them. Don't put people on this roller coaster, especially if people that are not seeing this and doesn't understand and already are sort of on the fence with the Titans and whether to keep Ryan or why did they draft Will Levis and all this other stuff. Now you're going to send them on this yo-yo before they even get an opportunity to see him in camp. Because I guarantee you, I'm telling you, I don't even have to be there. And I tell you, he's going to have a bad day. He's going to make some horrible passes. He's going to have a good day. He's going to make some passes that make many think that, man, he should be the starter right now. But he's not. And he won't be right now. So you take it for what it's worth. You look at it. You dissect it. You say, okay, he had a bad day. But he also, we've seen some articles, too, prior to the OTAs that, man, the ball comes off his hands so good. He looks so poised and yada, yada, yada. Just relax, man. Go back to Aaron Rodgers. RELAX. Relax, people. We got a long way to go.
Yes.
And Ryan is doing what he's supposed to do.
This is only coming from one place, and that is people are bored.
Yeah.
Like, I would encourage you, branch out. Watch Tennessee in the College World Series in softball. They're beating Alabama 4-0.
Drink a Dr. Pepper.
Watch
eat a
little
moon
baseball.
pie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Branch out. Have some fun. Do something.
Transformers coming out in another week.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing that.
Breaking news, Tyron Lawrence is coming back officially to Vanderbilt basketball.
There we go.
They're back in the game.
Absolutely.
Another one where everybody was panicking, and I would probably was panicking too when he said, I'm in the transfer portal. I was like, wait a minute, come on. You're doing so well. Why would you? Why would you want to go? But he's back. Everything's good. And we're all good, Tyron. All right. So I think Vanderbilt basketball is really doing cartwheels right now. Jerry Stackhouse feeling really good about what's going on. But my point is on the 11th, let's not get so tunnel vision that we're eating up everything that happens in every practice. All it takes is for one person, and I'll give you the example. I'm just scrolling. I'm doing what I normally do in the morning or at night, just scrolling, and everybody has the same video. Will Levis against air. It's just a footwork drill.
It was a good throw.
He sails it over the they're trying to throw it in the little hole, right? It's like it's just like the carnival.
Exactly.
I'm throwing it through the tire. It's a variation of that, but you're going through a progression. You're going through your mental reps. You're working on your footwork, and he hums it, and it goes over the thing. He doesn't come anywhere close. It just takes one yo-yo to put that out there, and then somebody goes, "Oh, Will Levis, he's terrible. I mean, he's accurate. I told you he wasn't accurate. Everything they're saying is right." It's just for one throw that somebody puts on there, and it's a tunnel vision. It's an echo chamber, and that throw circulates. It doesn't even matter if the next 5 go in. That one throw, it's like, I see. Everything I told you about Will Levis is right. And then somebody even tweets the box score of his game against Tennessee. And then the box score, they lost to Vanderbilt. It just snowballs. It's like, dude, it's one pass from one drill. He's going to do the same drill tomorrow. Cool it. So we need to come up with like Mr. Cool, like a relaxing atmosphere, something to calm these people down.
Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze. We need Mr. Freeze.
I think there's a couple of things here. One, this is what happens when it doesn't matter where a player was drafted, first round, second round, seventh round. If they have first round hype, everything they do is going to be dissected and picked apart under a microscope. I feel like every time I lift my head up with ESPN on the TV, they're talking about Will Levis. And I don't know where the obsession, the national obsession with Will Levis came from, but everyone is talking about Will Levis, how he looks, the competition with Ryan Tannehill. That's what comes with a guy who had the hype of a top 5 pick, no matter where he was taken. The second thing, a lot of things that we've been talking about since Will Levis was drafted is there going to be a potential taker out there for Ryan Tannehill? Look at the Raiders and their situation. Jimmy Garoppolo failed the physical. Could Ryan Tannehill be an attractive trade partner with the Las Vegas Raiders? That all comes down to the caveat of what does Will Levis look like? Because you're not trading Ryan Tannehill if Will Levis looks a certain way. Will Levis has to look like he can be a legitimate starter in the NFL. So where he is right now, based off of the evaluation of the people who were able to make it to OTAs yesterday, sounds like Ryan Tannehill ain't going nowhere. That Ryan Tannehill is going to be your starting quarterback because Will Levis just doesn't look ready to start right now. And you know what? He doesn't need to be ready to start right now because they're not asking him to start right now. You want to see progress. You want to see him get better. You want to see the competition maybe get a little bit stiffer. But where we are right now, it's okay. It is going to be okay.
Well, yeah, even if you drafted him in a top 5 or 10 picks and you expect he's going to be your starter, you have to know that he's going to have his growing pains. We always look back to, Peyton Manning. We always go to that. It's like Peyton Manning threw 99 interceptions his first year. And at the end of his career, he's a Hall of Famer and one of the greatest quarterbacks ever lived. I'm not saying that Will Levis will be that. Hope he is. I'm not saying that. We looked at Trevor Lawrence 2 years ago. The guy wasn't good. And many people were getting ready to write him off or damn near close to it. And then along comes a coach that really knows how to coach. And now this kid looks just like the guy we thought he was going to be. So relax. Will Levis has time. If he becomes the starter this year, if he shows it this year, then great. And I'm sure if he shows he can be a starter this year, they will put him in that position. But in their minds, they're probably thinking like, listen, we got Ryan Tannehill. We just want this guy to get better. And if he gets better, we know he's going to have growing pains. We know he's going to throw some interceptions during the practice. We know he's going to misread some things. We know he's not going to find open receiver every now and then. But that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at, is he making a progression? Is he, the things that he did yesterday bad? Are he continually to do those things bad the next day and the next day? If he's not, if he's getting better each and every day, if he's learning from the things that he did bad and getting better the next day, that's all we want. So, yes, he will throw an interception. We know that. We didn't say, Will Levis, we're bringing you in here. You better not throw a damn interception in practice. If you do, you're out of here. No, he didn't say that. They know he's going to throw
Kick
some.
rocks,
Exactly.
Will.
They know he's going to throw the ball. They know Traylon Burks is going to be running across the middle at 15 yards, and he's going to throw it as if he's throwing it to Yao Ming, which means he's throwing it 10 feet up in the air. He might throw it like that, and they know it. They just hope he doesn't do that as much.
Why do you have to be mad?
So there. But it's you're going to report it because you see it. But I think sometimes you got to also sort of, hey, listen, these are the things he did good. These are the things he did bad. He's a rookie, and hopefully he can work on it.
We weren't able to be out at OTAs yesterday given the Predators press conference, but Nick Suss of the Tennessean was there, so he will join us coming up next. We'll get his takeaways from practice yesterday. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
All the big plays.
For the win! Yes! Vanderbilt wins it!
All the big stories.
Quarterback carousel. What the Titans decide to do at the quarterback position.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
10% chance of making the playoffs. Checkered flag is in the
Team with incredible talent.
Every team in the league.
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, it's Jared from my friends at Hiller. Hiller's Heat Wave Heroes are keeping you from getting burned this summer. If you know your home needs an air conditioning replacement, do not wait until it breaks down. You do not want to be sweating in your home. This month, get a free UV light and free electronic air cleaner when you buy select new HVAC systems. Or get a whole home water filtration for just $59 a month. Or get a new whole home generator for just $139 a month. Call Hiller's Heat Wave Heroes to save the day. Visit happyhiller.com to book.
Does this sound familiar? Did your agent provide excellent entertainment with their TikTok videos and constant social media posts about themselves while completely ignoring that you hired them to sell your home? Did they tell you how wonderful they were? How many followers they had? They probably never sold your home, but hey, they did get 15 likes on their selfies. Hashtag my clients love me. Don't let that happen to you. Google TJ Anderson Homes and see why the only likes we care about are our clients loving our service. Ask us about our prepay with TJ option and how it can save you thousands. TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Office number 615-432-2919.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
More than 80 million Americans depend on AM radio for their news, traffic, weather, sports, and a community connection. It's the backbone of the emergency alert system, keeping us safe in dangerous times. It's critical that we keep AM radio in cars, because when cell and internet services are down, this free emergency service could be your only lifeline. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
We try to stay cool by being on social media.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
Follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game and on Instagram at 1025 The Game Nashville.
Hey!
Oh, yeah. And like us on Facebook, too. having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Joining us now is Nick Suss of the Tennessean. Nick was out at Titans OTAs yesterday when we couldn't be, so Nick's given us the full breakdown. Nick, appreciate you for joining us. We were just chatting about your 4 takeaways from Titans OTAs yesterday, and one thing that I read in your article and something that I heard a lot on social media was about Will Levis's day. What was your kind of full breakdown, full analysis within the guidelines of what we can say of Will Levis's day compared to the rest of the quarterback room?
Yeah, simply put, he's the guy we kind of thought he'd be 1 month into Titans practices. Like, I don't want to make too much out of guy who people said might be a project being a project.
Right.
Like, look, if you're comparing the way the ball comes out of his hand to the way the ball comes out of Ryan Tannehill's hand, it's not the same. And maybe it never will be the same. Maybe it's just not the same yet. But one of them's a 12-year pro who's had a lot of success in the league. One of them's a guy who's still trying to refine his talents as a downfield thrower, as an over-the-middle thrower, as a guy who moves around in the pocket. I thought that there were a couple of throws he made yesterday I was really impressed by, of his ability to step up in the pocket, move around, kind of throw on the run, find receivers downfield, keep his eyes downfield. I think that there are some innate skills there that get you excited, but you also see some inconsistency, see some inaccuracy, see some frustration boiling up at times, and that's natural. I think back to something Tannehill said yesterday about this is the time of year to make good mistakes, and I think that's kind of where Levis is at, where Malik Willis is at, where just about any young player on this team is at, is you're trying to figure out who you are as a professional football player. Will Levis has only been a professional football player for a month and a half. It's going to take some time for him to figure out who he is, and I don't know if he's necessarily gotten there yet, which is as to be expected.
Nick Suss is with us. One guy that I think needed a really good offseason, and one guy that I know I'm encouraged by, and it sounds like you are too, based off of your most recent article in the Tennessean, is Treylon Burks. Everything that he's done throughout the offseason, I've been really encouraged and enthused by. What have you seen from him so far?
Yeah, he looks like a guy who's more comfortable with what he's doing, and that's obviously what you want year one into year two for a receiver. The bar tends to be pretty low for what the Titans need from a number one receiver, given the way the offense runs, and even if you're running a faster tempo, you're still more of a methodical team when you have Derrick Henry on roster. But if this is a guy who can play in 17 games next year, if he can get to 850 yards, which is about what he'd be expected to in the average year one to year two jump for first-round receivers, if he can get to 850 yards and 6 or 7 touchdowns, that's exactly what this team needs. And based off the way he looks, I think he can get there. I think he can be a little bit better than that. And if that's the way this offense is structured, is Treylon can be in that 800 to 1,000 yards range and feel comfortable and draw a couple of safeties a little deeper and help the running game have a little more success getting past 2-3 yards downfield, I think that's a blessing for this team.
We'll talk with Nick Suss of the Tennessean, who was out at Tennessee Titans practice yesterday, OTAs. Now, Nick, was Harold Landry out there? If he was, how did he look? And then the other guys that they brought in, Arden Key, those guys, how did they look out there?
Yeah, Harold's not out there yet. A whole list of defensive guys aren't out there yet. Harold and Caleb Farley because of injury, and then Kevin Byard, Christian Full, and Amani Hooker, and Sean Murphy-Bunting weren't out there in the secondary of just not being out there for the optional practice. But when it comes to those other guys up front, I've been impressed with Arden Key. I think that he's going to be a really important player for this team, not just for, his ability to rush the passer off the edge and pair with Harold Landry when he gets healthy, but also his ability to let Danico Autry play more on the inside, free up that defensive line to be a little bit more versatile with what Tier Tart and Jeffrey Simmons and Autry and some of these other guys can do. I think his presence, his ability to be vocal, be animated, it's something the Titans necessarily didn't have last year. I think that he's somebody who's going to definitely be that vocal energy piece, which is something every defense seemingly should have. And also he's gifted pass rusher. You can never have too many of those. So I think he's an exciting add for the Titans.
Now, the one guy I'm interested in, and he wasn't out there, was Caleb Farley. You just mentioned he wasn't out there. Now, with him, how do you think they approached this with him this year? Because they did add depth to the cornerback room this offseason. But I'm sure they're hoping that he can get over his injury issues. But how do you think they proceed with Caleb Farley?
It's such an interesting situation because you think back to last year, even before the injury, he was a special teams guy. He's got all this talent in the world, and when he was at his healthiest last year, which granted he still might not have been 100%, but who he was last year wasn't good enough to crack the top of the cornerback rotation. I think what they're focusing on right now is just making sure that he's confident enough and healthy enough to be who he can be. I don't know that anybody at this point knows who that is. I don't know if he's going to be the guy that achieves that first-round potential from when the Titans drafted him. Maybe he can be, but right now they just have to focus on getting him mentally and physically prepared to think he can be that guy, because all of the on-the-field stuff, that's going to come second. You got to figure out the technique and all that, and it's super important, but this is a dude who through 2 years in the NFL has been through the ringer. I think that just they have to take care of making sure he can be on the field before they focus on can he beat out a Christian Fulton or Roger McCreary or Sean Murphy-Bunting or any of these guys as a starting corner.
We're talking to Nick Suss, who is the beat writer for the Titans for the Tennessean. And for those that, you might put the connection together if you're an SEC fan, we used to talk to Nick a lot when he was covering Ole Miss and Mississippi State. And we've had him on before. So, Nick, it's great to talk to you again. And I was reminded about your love for sitcoms. And, of course, we love talking TV on this show from time to time here. But so how do we feel about the overall health of the sitcom these days? Because D-Mase and I go back. I mean, we're Sanford and Son, the Jeffersons, Alice, we're late 70s. This is our lives. We had a long talk about
strokes.
Jumping the shark. Like with Happy Days, we actually were talking about Fonz jumping the shark not too long ago. So we share the same passion.
Sure, yeah. The sitcom is in an interesting place, and I'm glad that you've given me an hour and a half to talk about it, I assume.
Forget about the Titans. Let's talk sitcoms.
No, so this was a crux week for sitcoms with three major ones, three kind of era-defining ones coming to a close. Barry, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and Ted Lasso. I won't give spoilers for any of them because I assume people aren't as plugged in as I am, but I think that we're seeing the effect of Ted Lasso ring through sitcoms. A lot of very gentle, very motivational shows coming out, which you're seeing on network with shows like Abbott Elementary, and you're seeing on streaming with shows like Shrinking, shows like, what's it called? Our Flag Means Death, the pirate show on HBO Max that didn't get anywhere near enough credit. A lot of great shows in that vein. If you're talking about the Alice-style conventional four-camera sitcoms, I don't know if we're getting very many Sanford and Son reboots these days. I did get a kick out of Rob Lowe's show. What was that called? Unstable on Netflix. That wasn't a four-camera show, but that one had some heart to it. If you want a under-the-radar one that came out this year, there is a show called Extraordinary on Hulu that's kind of a superhero kind of comedy show that it's very raunchy. I'm not going to recommend it if you're watching with kids around, but it's got
disclaimer.
It's got some of the best gags I've seen of the year, and the Night Court reboot doesn't suck.
Really? Okay, I'm glad to know that.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Because I was
suck.
skeptical. I saw that. I was like, really? Can you pull that off?
No, it's fine. And that 90s show was also in the doesn't suck category. If you're into reboots, that 90s show doesn't suck. Night Court doesn't suck. How I Met Your Father, I have feelings about it, but I've seen every episode. There are shows that don't stink if you like old school sitcoms, but the new school stuff seems to be winning.
I'm always a little afraid of a reboot. Like, I don't want you to spoil a good thing, so you better bring it strong if you're going to do it. So I'm glad to hear that Night Court, which used to be on one of the greatest nights of TV there, I'm glad it doesn't suck. But let me sneak in one Titans question for you,
sure,
Nick, before we let you go. Skoronski, just your first impression. I know you put a little video out there. Again, it's not time to overreact, but people I'm sure are really curious to see how he's doing out there.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. Obviously, the learning guard and tackle at the same time is going to raise some eyebrows. There are a lot of fans who don't want to see a team pick a guard number 11, and if he ends up playing guard this year, there are going to be people confused by the pick, but I'll just put it out blankly. I usually don't speak this bluntly. I think he's going to be the best blocker the Titans have. I don't care what position he plays at. The dude is good at blocking. And I talked to Coach Haas, Jason Hoteling, the offensive line coach, yesterday, and I was asking him about the arm length stuff, asking him about the positional versatility stuff, and look, at the end of the day, all they want him to do is make blocks. They don't care about how long his arms are. They don't care about what position he's playing. If he's playing the job he's playing and he's grading out well, he's doing the job they drafted him to do, which is improve the offensive line. And I think regardless of if he's playing guard or tackle, regardless if he's got short arms or long arms, whatever insults you want to hurl at him or whatever pejoratives you want to say about positional value, they weren't good at blocking last year, and they drafted a guy who's really good at blocking. So that in itself feels like an improvement.
Derek, great catches. You know, you caught 8 passes, but your arms just aren't long enough. I don't know if we can put you out there next week.
but didn't I just catch all the passes?
But your arms, they're just not long enough. Can you grow those a little bit? Can you stretch? Like Bobby Brady and the Brady Bunch trying to get a little taller?
I can hang on the monkey bars and stretch for about 2 hours. I don't think that's going to work.
Brady Bunch taught us that doesn't work.
Exactly.
Right, just working it back to the sitcom.
Nick, I will say, doesn't suck is one of my favorite soft endorsements of something. It doesn't suck. So that's the threshold. Nick Suss is with us from the Tennessee. And last one for you, Nick. Should the Titans pursue DeAndre Hopkins? And based off of Mike Vrabel's comments yesterday, do you think that they are?
I don't. Should's a weird word here because teams should always try and get better players. And DeAndre Hopkins is better than certainly who the Titans are probably going to have as their number 3 or 4 receiver. And if you have 3 or 4 receivers on the field, getting a better player is good. Will they? Probably in a soft way. I think they will be in the sweepstakes, but I feel like this is a free agency that is more about DeAndre picking which teams he wants to talk to than it is teams that want DeAndre getting to talk to him. I think it probably would have been easier to land him had it been a trade than it would have in free agency. But the Titans receiving core, I looked this up yesterday. DeAndre's played 10 NFL seasons. Last year he had 730 or so receiving yards, and that was his second worst season in his career, and it's 170 more yards than any other Titans player has had in their career best season. Like, obviously this guy on the downturn is still an improvement over most of these Titans players at their best. That said, you have to talk about how he would fit on the team. You have to talk about positional value. You have to talk about salary cap stuff. You have to talk about chemistry. All of this is going to play in. If it's purely we're playing Madden and you're trying to get the best overall team rating, go get DeAndre Hopkins. If you're talking about this is a team that has a specific plan for what it wants, I say pursue it, but don't bet the house on it, because I still think that with or without DeAndre Hopkins, this team still has weaknesses elsewhere.
Nick Suss of the Tennessean, appreciate you for joining us and always appreciate your breakdowns on the Tennessean. We'll chat with you soon.
Yeah, let's talk soon.
Awesome. Yep. Thanks, Nick. And that's what I want to get into coming up next, because Mike Vrabel was asked about DeAndre Hopkins, what he had to say about the team's interest. We'll get into that coming up next.
And did Nick ask Mike Vrabel what his favorite sitcom was?
Also that, coming up
next. Is that possible?
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106 for the game.
This is massive news.
The Nashville Predators have moved on from head coach John Hines.
I try to do it in the best way. I'm a big supporter of John.
And hired former Pred Andrew Brunette as his replacement.
I'm so excited to be with these people, and I take a lot of pride in that.
What's next as incoming GM Barry Trotz puts his mark on the team?
We're going to get the right people, and if you want to be part of something special, you're going to be a Nashville Predator.
Keep it locked on your home for Smashville. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Honey, what's an 8-letter word for difficult to explain?
When we planned on retiring, we never planned on Medicare being so confusing.
What's a 6-letter word for special skills or knowledge?
Fortunately, Farm Bureau Health Plans is an expert on all things Medicare. With 75 years of helping Tennesseans, they helped us understand our Medicare options.
Why are these things so complicated?
Talk to your local representative or visit fbhp.com. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Plan on us.
Interest rates may be high everywhere else, but now at Genesis Diamonds, you can get 0 interest on any purchase. 5 years, 0 interest financing with nothing down. Beautiful eternity bands, 1-carat diamond stud earrings, and more. Starting at only $50 a month. At Genesis, we are always looking for ways to do more for our amazing customers. So don't miss this. 5 years, 0 interest financing. Imagine that $6,000 designer ring is just $100 a month. We'll even finance the sales tax. Now through July 1st only. And only at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. On approved credit, see store for details.
Buffalo Bill's Center of the West in Cody, Wyoming welcomes you as you enter Yellowstone Park's East entrance. 5 museums in one, including the fantastic Whitney Western Art Museum. Welcome to the West. Buffalo Bill's Center of the West, Cody, Wyoming.
When the game goes into overtime. But the game goes into overtime. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Pick up Bud Light at your local convenience store today. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
When you want to rock.
Let's go, don't wait. This night's almost over. Do all the monsters come out at night? Why do we sleep when we want to?
We are Nashville's rock station. 1029 The Buzz.
Your company's hiring. Who isn't? We would love to show you how to use 1025 The Game to attract and retain employees. We can also help you find the exact person you're looking for with a targeted digital campaign. You can trust our team to help you build your team. Email us at together@cromwellmedia.com.
Hey, Nashville, it's Mike Greenberg, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 1025 The Game.
Should the Titans pursue D-Hop?
I don't think so. D-Hop had a little list, too. I'm not sure that the Titans necessarily fit his list either. And I think that probably like recent memory with veteran receivers that the Titans have tried to sign to have it worked out, just doesn't feel like that would necessarily be the right fit. It sounds like Kansas City could be interested. It sounds like Cleveland could maybe be interested. And so I think there'll be probably other teams that are more desperate to add him. And with that being the case, Buffalo, another one in the mix there. With that being the case, I would not go chase that if I were the Tennessee Titans.
Why not?
I just think he's 31 years old. The production the last 2 years, albeit some of it a suspension, last year, he also was injured, 2 years prior to that. And, receiver is a position that, look, it's not all that different than running back. It's a young, fast man's game. And I think that when you start to get with older guys, there are just other issues in terms of, can they practice? Can they still run? All of those things. And look, I think the Titans experienced it with Julio Jones. And so I just think you got to be careful for it. Look, if it's a team-friendly deal, sure. But if you have other people interested and you're competing for them, then I'm not as crazy about it.
That was Tim Hasselbeck, ESPN NFL analyst, on our show earlier this week. He says, if I'm the Titans, I'm not chasing DeAndre Hopkins. And I would probably agree that you don't want to overpay for DeAndre Hopkins. You don't want to get into a bidding war for DeAndre Hopkins. But I think there's a difference between chase and pursue to at least see what it would take. And Mike Vrabel was asked yesterday by TD at OTAs, are the Titans pursuing DeAndre Hopkins? This was Mike Vrabel.
I think our focus has always been about the players that we have here. And we'll keep you updated as we continue to add players to the roster.
A guy like that available, is that kind of what you were touching on when you had mentioned, how there's another phase of free agency, how it's not finished?
Well, players come available at different times of the year, all the way up until the trade deadline, and then some of those veteran players that may be out there that signed throughout the offseason and training camp and even into the season. So player acquisition is always going to be something that you can try to add to your roster at different times.
So kind of classic Mike Vrabel, not really giving us much.
That curtain.
That curtain is iron. That curtain is iron. I mean, tell me if you interpreted that differently. I don't get any feeling one way or another about whether the Titans are interested in DeAndre Hopkins or not. He said, I want to focus on the players here, but I don't think that necessarily means that they're not looking elsewhere. They're going to have to look elsewhere.
Well, yeah, I think they're looking at what's available, what can potentially be available. I think whether they kick the tires on this Hopkins thing or not, I think any team would try to get better. And Tim said it. I mean, even Nick said it. Listen, if you're trying to get better, you're sort of looking at everybody. Everybody that's out there, and if they can make your team better, then you want to at least inquire about that person, see what that person's thinking, see what their team is thinking. And I do believe Nick when he said it'd probably been a little bit easier to get him via trade than it is now, because it's not a coincidence that Hop comes out with this list of 5 guys, and I don't know how the question was phrased. I think the question was phrased, name quarterbacks that you would love to catch passes from, not necessarily that you would love to play with or you're thinking about playing with, who you would love catching passes from. Well, he names these 5 quarterbacks, and then subsequently right after that he gets cut. Because in Cardinals' minds, like, he's not even with us. They're looking at it as he's thinking about other guys. He's not on the same page. He doesn't, what we're thinking as an organization and what he's thinking as a player doesn't mesh. So we might as well cut the cord right now instead of trying to trade, because we know we're not going to be able to facilitate that because of the contract. Let's let him go now. Well, not only did Carolina hear that, the Cardinals hear that, everybody else heard that too in the NFL. These are the 5 quarterbacks that he wants to catch passes from. He didn't name Ryan Tannehill. He didn't name Jimmy G. He didn't name...
I don't think anybody's catching passes from Jimmy G.
He didn't name Derek Carr. He didn't name, all these other quarterbacks. Hell, he didn't even name the Jets quarterback. I was losing
Aaron
my mind.
Rodgers.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers. He didn't even name Aaron Rodgers. Of all those quarterbacks, he didn't name Aaron Rodgers. He named 5 specific quarterbacks that he would love to catch passes from. And all of a sudden now those 5 quarterbacks are sort of those 5 teams are now in the sort of mix in regards to where he could potentially land. Some teams more than others, but these are the 5 teams. He didn't mention the Titans. Ain't nobody talking about the Titans. They may say, yeah, the Titans need him, which they do, but nobody's giving that serious thought. The only way I believe he comes here, the package has to be big for him to come here. The dough has to be massive for him to come here, at least in my opinion. Or, man, Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel, they got to be doing some hell of a talking to convince him to come here. Because the other 5 teams are in a place that the Tennessee Titans are not in. Super Bowl mode. Not that the Titans don't want a Super Bowl, win a Super Bowl, because they do. But you're looking at where they're at. They're not in that position, it seems, right now, to win a Super Bowl. Playoffs, yeah, they can make it to the playoffs. Anything can happen. Super Bowl, more a little bit outside, sort of that circle. Buffalo, the Chiefs, Chargers, Baltimore. What was that 5th team? He named somebody else. Those teams are in the running for a Super Bowl. And those teams have damn good quarterbacks. And he can go to one in particular and possibly take less, knowing that more than likely he will win a Super Bowl or at least be in a Super Bowl. And that team's the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't care how much money they've spent. He will take a pay cut to go with the Chiefs. Why? Because he will get the targets, which means he will get the yardage, and he will be in line to at least make it to the Super Bowl in his mind.
Then why hasn't he done it already?
Because teams, it's going to be a slow process. He's just not going to, or Kansas City is not just going to jump out there and offer him a contract. Obviously, they got to get their ducks in a row, and, he has to figure it out, and these other teams have to figure it out. Just because he was released, say on a Wednesday, a team's not then going to sign him on a Thursday, just because he's good. They're going to wait. I expect for DeAndre Hopkins to sign within the next 2 weeks. And I do believe it's going to be one of those 5 teams, unless a dark horse team comes out of the way. But that dark horse team still has to be a Super Bowl contending team. It can't be somebody that just may make the playoffs.
I'm with you that they would have to overpay, and I'm with Tim that he's not just where the team is and where he is in his career. To me, it's just not a good buy. And I do think, and I've been hearing it around the league, there's teams like Buffalo that are sitting there going, we wouldn't mind having him. We don't have to have him. Mm-hmm. I think the Chiefs would be in this category too. But they may be saying that publicly. I wonder privately, though, if there's a little recruiting pitch going, look, we can't pay you a whole lot. This is what we can do incentives-wise and stuff, but this is where we see you. Man, you would look great. I mean, we got Patrick Mahomes, or we've got this amazing Buffalo team. We got a nasty defense. We got Josh Allen. I think there's going to be a recruiting pitch that I would think DeAndre Hopkins would want to hear, and then he's got to decide, do I want just a paycheck, or do I want maybe take a little less and go where I really, really have a chance to play for a great team?
Right, because I don't think that he's getting both of those things in wherever he goes.
I would agree.
The Chiefs might look at it and say, hey, you want to play here? Then you're going to play under this dollar amount. The Titans might look at it and say, hey, we can't offer you Super Bowl contention. We can't offer you an elite quarterback, but this is the dollar amount that we can try to use to coerce you to come here. And D-Mase, you make a fair point in the things that DeAndre Hopkins wants. But I think there's a caveat there as well. So we'll continue the conversation coming up next. And I tune in for Nashville Sounds Baseball tonight at 6:04 p.m. on 94.9 The Fan. The Sounds take on the Charlotte Knights, AAA affiliate of the Chicago White Sox. Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by 312 Pizza Company, Farm Bureau Health Plans, and Family Leisure. Elliot Friedman in 15 minutes. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
When it comes to Nashville sports,
locking up Jeffrey Simmons, clearly that was a priority for them.
He knows his stuff.
A little bit good, a little bit bad.
And knows how to push the right buttons.
He's coming off an ACL tear, and he's 25 years old, so you cannot ignore that.
Join Outkick's Chad Withrow every Friday at 5 with Stillman and Company. Withrow.
What I hate more than anything is people that are phony and not true to themselves.
Is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Heard that phrase, less is more? Well, at Harbor Freight, it's more for less. That's why everything in our store is priced affordably. Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight. And now when you buy a Hercules 20-volt battery and charger for $119.98, you get to choose a select Hercules 20-volt tool to go with it for free. Yep, more for less. Harbor Freight. Offer and pricing valid in-store and on in-stock items only from now until June 30th. While supplies last, selection varies by location. Cannot be combined with other discounts or promotions. Free tool limited to select items only.
Music City will be rocking June 23rd through the 25th with a different sound. The sound of NASCAR.
Start your engine!
The Ally 400 is back at Nashville Superspeedway, and this year, it's a night race. NASCAR in Nashville. It's guitars and fast cars under the lights. Visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com to get your tickets for the triple header weekend, including the Ally 400, Tennessee Lottery 250, and the Rackley Roofing 200 today.
At Progressive, we know how much you love your recreational vehicles, so we decided to record this commercial in an RV.
With a family on vacation.
Mom, who are these people?
Oh, that's Flo and Jamie. They're recording a commercial, sweetie.
Don't they do that in the studio?
Normally.
No.
But we wanted to feature a family who bundled their home and RV and saved with Progressive.
Yeah, it looks like you're all out of chips.
Okay, I think we'll just drop you off at the next gas station.
Bundle your home and other vehicles with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations.
They talk sports.
The Predators get the 2 points, which is obviously what they needed.
They're not making big moves that are jaw-dropping signings in free agency.
They talk life.
Well, I almost just fell down the stairs, so there's that.
My backpack was so heavy, the seatbelt alarm was going off the entire trip.
But most of all, they have a good time.
You're there.
Yeah.
Chase and Michelle, weekday mornings at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, it's awesome!
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
I mean, he's going to say that publicly. He's going to say, I just want to go somewhere and win. If that's true, he could have signed with the Chiefs or the Bills already. You know, he could go and, you know, say to the Jets, I'll take whatever. Let's figure it out. There's, you know, it's a jammed wide receiver room, but, you know, I like the fact that you brought in Aaron Rodgers. He's a player I respect. I mean, the options are on the table for him to go to any number of situations where it's going to be a ring chasing situation. I think ultimately he's going to go to where the money is the best, just like Odell Beckham Jr. did. Odell Beckham Jr. took $15 million the second it was offered to him and canceled a visit to the Jets because he knew there was no way in hell he was going to get $15 million from the Jets. I think it'll be the same situation with Hopkins.
That was Charles Robinson on with Robbie and Rextro this morning on DeAndre Hopkins. And look, DeAndre Hopkins has come out and said, I want to catch passes from Josh Allen, from Patrick Mahomes, from a bunch of these Super Bowl contending teams. And it would make sense to rationalize that by saying DeAndre Hopkins probably doesn't have the longest career left. So he wants to win a ring while he still can. I totally understand that. But that's really easy to say whenever you are getting into contract negotiations, into talks, when you're starting to date a few teams here and there. But when it really comes down to it, sometimes that hefty contract is a lot more desirable. Sometimes you can look at it and say, well, yeah, I only have a few years left to win a ring, but I also only have a few years left to cash in on these multi-million-dollar contracts. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and go where the money is biggest. And he's already come out and said, I'm not taking that pay cut to go to Kansas City. So I think that there's a certain price for DeAndre Hopkins. And I think that that's a positive thing if the Titans do indeed want to pursue DeAndre Hopkins. And D-Mase, you pointed out that he said he wants to go to a Super Bowl contending team. Mm-hmm. The caveat to that is those Super Bowl contending teams have to want him to.
Yeah, they do. Again, I think now that he's in the market now, and I said this the other day, I believe. Listen, what a guy, I did say it to Tim, what a guy believes he's worth and what he deserves and what he should get and what the market actually says, what he's worth and what they feel he deserves and get are sometimes two different things, especially as you start to get older as a player. You're thinking from a player standpoint, a lot of times we're not 100% honest with ourselves in regards to our ability. We think sometimes we're still playing at that same level or damn near close to it than we were 5-6 years ago. And probably we are further away from that than closer. So we always look at it, but you're only thinking about the things you've done, not about what you're projected to do. And maybe he realizes that once teams start offering contracts or teams aren't offering contracts, he may realize that, well, I gotta sort of reevaluate the money thing because I was basing it on what I have done and what in my body, what I still feel like, rather than what they project me to do moving forward. Because what they're projecting me to do moving forward is based on how much money they're offering me. So maybe I got to weigh that. And then that may show him that, okay, I can go to a Kansas City Chiefs or I can go to a Buffalo and take a little less, but still be in a position to win the Super Bowl.
I asked this to Tim yesterday, and we didn't get a chance to hear your side of this, Derek, but sometimes it's got to be really hard for any guy, and Tim used the example of Julio Jones being the most targeted receiver in NFL history when he got to the Titans. And obviously his inability to stay on the field was a huge factor. But, he had to adapt. He wasn't going to be. A.J. Brown was clearly the best receiver on the team, even though A.J. Brown was cheerleading and saying, you can be the number one, I'll be the number two. That's fine. We're going to have a great team. It never really played out. But this is something I'm sure the Chiefs, the Bengals, whoever is going to make this pitch, like, hey, we can't pay you that much. We'd love to have you, but can you be a role player? And they have to sell him on, like, this is where we would put you. This is what we see your role, but don't expect to get 140 targets for our team. Like, how would that? It probably sits differently with different receivers. Can he be a guy that's saying, look, I just want to win. I'll take 3 passes a week or 4 passes if that's what it is, and if I earn more, you'll throw it to me more.
It's a lot easier said than done.
That's hard for a guy that has been a number one receiver basically his whole career. And I'm talking about
you know the feeling.
Yeah,
right?
I know the feeling.
You come off the field going, man, I'm open. Why aren't you calling my number? I know I can beat this guy.
Yeah.
I'm open. I'm 7-Eleven, 24 hours.
Hey, I'm open every time you come to me. So even when you don't come to me, I'm open. You just got to look my way. It's hard for a guy that has played at that level that Hop has played at to then take a back seat. It was hard for me, year 13, 13 and 14, to sort of take that back seat to an Anquan Bolden. Or not to say that he and I had problems, but in my mind, and I'm sure in his mind, he was probably thinking, I could still play this game at a high level too. Like, why aren't I getting, I won't touch this too. But when you've been the top guy for so long, and then they ask you to take a significantly less of a role, meaning you're not going to get targeted 8 times a game. It might be 3, it might be 4. It's hard for a guy to say, okay, I'm doing it. Let's do it. Even if he knows he's on a Super Bowl winning team, because what happens is you may agree to it. Everything may be peachy creamy. We go through camp. I'm getting my targets. I'm getting more than 4 or 5 in camp. They throwing me the ball. I'm feeling good. It's like, okay.
Like I told you, I'm still number one.
I told you, I still got it.
Yeah.
But then you get in the game plan, and they start game planning things. And then the game started to be played a little bit different, and you start to see, okay, after the first game, I got about 5 targets. It's like, man, I want a little bit more, but okay. And then as the season goes on, it becomes 3 some games. It becomes 2. It becomes, man, you didn't get targeted the whole first half. And then you start to be like, what's going on here? Because I'm used to. That's where you got to, it's hard. You got to check that ego. And it's hard to check that ego when that ego has been, so big for so long and you've been able to compete at that level. Now, all of a sudden, you're telling me, check the ego though. Make it a little bit smaller because you only get the ball 2 or 3 times. As a player, you're like, man, I still can help. It doesn't come from a place of selfishness. It doesn't come from a place of, it comes from a place of, I believe I can still help the team.
Yeah. And you're dependent on the quarter. You can't do anything unless the guy throws you the ball.
Absolutely.
Which is why I think a team like the Titans would be attractive to a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, who has been that number one, who still wants the targets.
It wouldn't be attractive.
Who else you going to?
It wouldn't be attractive for this reason. I hope the Titans do win a lot this season, and I do hope they do win above what many have, 7.5 games, somewhere around there. I hope they win above that. But when you got a player like D-Hop, and if you do get him to come here, if he's not getting the targets and he's not winning, you're going to have a problem.
But who else are the targets going to?
You're going to have the problem.
Oh, you're going to have a problem.
Like someone in the text line said Miami. You think he's going to Miami where he's splitting targets with Jalen Waddle and
Miami's
Tyreek
winning.
Hill?
But Miami's winning.
But DeAndre Hopkins would be 3rd on the list.
But Miami's
of
winning.
Players.
You think
so
OBJ?
Does he want to win or does he want targets?
You think OBJ cared about how many targets he got in with the Rams?
He wanted money.
No, he wanted a Super Bowl.
And
now he's chasing the money. He got that Super Bowl. He didn't care how many times he was targeted.
But DeAndre Hopkins, I think that might matter to him. I don't know what matters to him, but I'm saying if targets are the issue,
I know
he's not going to Buffalo.
But what I'm saying is that this stage of his career, if he's not getting targeted 10 times or 8 times, let's say he's getting targeted 4 times, you better be winning because winning cures everything.
Mm-hmm.
I can't complain and we're 12-1 and I got 35 catches after 13 games. Who am I going to complain to? We're winning.
Yeah, you're going to look like
exactly. You're going to look like exactly.
A jerk. Yeah,
it's like, especially as you're older, you've made the money. It's not like you're working on a contract. You've made the money. They're giving you money. Mm-hmm. So you would look like a ass for complaining to everybody. You can't do it. That's why I say winning cures all of that.
It's easy for Odell Beckham Jr.'s dad to complain about Baker Mayfield on Instagram.
Because they weren't winning.
When you're 2-15.
Exactly.
And that was not the record, but just for
But they were not
sake,
winning.
But they weren't winning.
If they're winning, he can't complain to nobody because people are like, dude, shut up. Y'all winning.
But yes, and that is very fair. I'm saying hypothetically, a team like the Titans, where there's really no other competition, And that's no disrespect to Treylon Burks because Treylon Burks still is going to be your number one, whoever else comes into this room. But D-Hop would get a good bit of the looks because who you throwing to? D-Hop or Nick Westbrook-Akine? Give me DeAndre Hopkins all day long, all day long. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. It was a big week for the Nashville Predators, so Elliot Friedman will join us coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup. Colorado has won the Stanley Cup.
The Stanley Cup Final lives here. Which team will hoist Lord Stanley's Cup in 2023? Follow all the action on Smashville's home for postseason hockey. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Gear up for spring at Coleman Tractor Company with Kubota zero turns and subcompact tractors in stock now and ready to work. Mow, dig, haul, and lift with the Kubota BX23S tractor loader backhoe. Now through June 30th, save up to $2,500 on BX23S models. Visit Coleman Tractor in Paris, Clarksville, Nashville, and White House today. Now through June 30th. See KubotaUSA.com for more information.
Do you have a VA loan? In this housing market, homeowners with VA loans have access to a ton of instant cash. Hey, Willy Donick here. Do you need cash to pay off credit cards and other high-interest loans? How does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound right now? Loan Pronto is helping veterans every day get the money they need with a quick and easy zero-cost cash-out refi with zero closing costs. With a VA loan, it's really cool because you can access up to 100% of your home's value. That's 100%. Use that money to pay off credit cards, home equity lines, car loan. Consolidate all your payments into one check per month and close in 2 weeks. Most homeowners who do this end up cutting their overall monthly payments by $800. And Loan Pronto's all-digital process makes it fast and easy. They're doing loans with super low APRs, and they love working with veterans. Call now. See what your options are. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Your Game Center update.
I'm Nick Keyser. The Nashville Predators continue to get situated this offseason as they have now landed on their next head coach in franchise history, naming Andrew Brunette the next bench boss for the Preds. And at his introductory press conference yesterday, he was asked about his style of coaching ahead of next season.
I think my philosophy of how I see the game is I kind of want to dominate the puck. And I want to have it as much as I can have it, and I don't want to chase around too much. So it's not really offensive. It's just more when you have it, keep it, and when you don't have it, get it back as soon as possible, where I don't want to defend.
Meanwhile, in Pittsburgh, the Penguins have made their next hire, bringing in former Toronto Maple Leafs general manager Kyle Dubas as their next president of hockey operations, and a familiar face to the Tennessee Titans has retired. Punter Brett Kern has announced his retirement after 15 seasons in the NFL, appearing in 223 contests, and is the Titans' all-time leader in punts. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 1025 and 106.3.
1, 2, 3. I think it was a good game. You had a couple of big plays.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It was pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. We're live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook Sports. Download their app today and use promo code THEGAME. Joining us now for the second time this week, because we just cannot get enough of him, is Elliot Friedman of the 32 Thoughts podcast and of Sportsnet. Elliot, appreciate you for coming on earlier this week, and always appreciate you for coming on Thursday at 1 o'clock. Elliot, I've had to come up with new questions for you now that we can't talk about the coach and who the next coach is going to be. Yes, yeah, I really think Barry Trotz did you a solid there. Andrew Brunette and Barry Trotz. I think that the marriage is really fun and really interesting because each have kind of been in each other's shoes. Barry's a lifelong coach. Andrew Brunette has had stints in the front office. How do you view this relationship and this coach-GM dynamic working out?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, Carolyn, I did rack my brain wondering what your first question was going to be because, you know, it's like everybody, a baseball pitcher's favorite pitch, 3-2 count, World Series on the line. You know what they're throwing. So I was wondering what you'd come out with. And this was also a big week for me, Carolyn. I noticed you finally followed me on Twitter, so I feel like I'm walking on clouds.
Did I get a follow back?
Yeah, sure, no problem. I'll do it right when we're done.
Appreciate that.
So I think this, when you're a first-time general manager, I don't think there's anything wrong. Like, all of our best friends in the world, we fight with them, but we're on their side at the end. And I think that that's the kind of relationship you have to have when you're a coach and you're a manager. Maybe you can disagree. Maybe you can say, I'm not crazy about this. But when it's over, you have to present a united front and you have to move forward together. And I think that's the kind of relationship that they're going to have. Like, I think Andrew Burnett had choices here, but I would bet that if he wasn't going to be in New Jersey and that avenue wasn't there, this is the one he wants because he's going in there with a manager he knows. He knows the person. He knows how Barry Trotz thinks, and he knows he will be supported. And I think that and he knows that at the end of the day, he won't be able to cook the menu, but he'll get his opinion heard on the ingredients. And I think, coaches, they'd love to be GMs and coaches, but you can't do that. But at the very least, you want input. And he's going to get input, and I think it's going to work fine. The one thing I thought Trotz, Derek, I'd be curious to hear if you thought that his explanations were good. Like, he knew what he was in for on Tuesday. He knew the questions. He knew what was going to be asked about him, and he was prepared. And, I think that I was kind of interested in seeing Trotz because for a press conference like that, you better have a message. You better have something you want to communicate properly. And I thought he came out, he articulated everything he needed to be said. He didn't back down from the questions he knew he was coming, and he had a way of answering them. And, to me, that's a good sign. Like, that press conference on whatever day it was, I can't even remember what day it is anymore, that was a good sign. That was a good sign because he was prepared for everything that came. And I think that was a good sign for the franchise.
Well, you're right, Elliot. It did change my mind on how I perceived that whole, how the whole coaching search sort of manifested itself. Because, listen, he's a guy. He had a plan, and no matter what was being said on the outside, he stuck to that plan, and that plan came to fruition, and he got the guy that he wanted in the time that he said he wanted to get him. End of May, beginning of June. So he sort of stuck to that plan. So I sort of backed off of that whole thing. Now the coach is here. I don't want to continue to rehash what happened and how it happened. And just hope that things work out. Now, what I am interested in your thoughts on, do you think, because I mentioned this to Caroline and Willie, do you think that Trotzy will have trouble staying within his boundaries as a GM because he has this coaching hat that he's always going to have in his back pocket, and he even said it, not necessarily coaching the team, but he's always in that thought mode. But will he be able to stay within those boundaries that I'm sure he will set for himself?
I think he will be. Like, you know, you guys know Barry Trotz. I don't know him as well as you guys know him, but I've seen enough of him to know that, you know, I think he really needed a break after at the end of his last year in New York. I've talked to some players about that last season in New York, and like they really liked Trotz. He did a lot of great things there. You know, you'll remember when Barry Trotz took over the Islanders, John Tavares had just left, and they thought they were going to be one of the worst teams in the East. And him and Lou Lamoriello got there, and Barry Trotz, he brought in structure, he empowered them. But that last year, and they will always be thankful for what he did for them. That last year that he was there was a really hard year. It was COVID. That area of the States had really tough restrictions, and everybody got burnt out, really burnt out. And it was a really hard year on everyone there. And, you know, Barry Trotz had last year to take off. He could have gotten any coaching job he wanted. Like, I think there were teams like the Rangers who reached out during the year and said, do you want to coach? And at the end of the day, he made this decision to be the GM of the Predators. He had options. And do I think it ever leaves your blood? No, I don't think so. And I'm sure there will be times when, like, it's February and it's game 46 and you guys are having a bad night. He'll be saying, holy smokes, I wish I was behind the bench. But I think, you know, he could have picked a lot of jobs, Derek, and he picked this one. And I think that says a lot about where he is in his life and where he thinks he's going and what he's done and what he still wants to do. And I think in the long run, he will be content doing the job he's doing.
Elliot Friedman with us. Elliot, it is really interesting. I wonder if the Rangers president, if Jim Dolan will poll the Predator fans, you know, who do you think we should hire, Peter Laviolette or John Hines? It's so interesting how those two names are surfacing for such a high-profile job. But do you think John Hines has a shot there?
Well, it's tough to say because it just kind of happened. I think they will talk to him. I think Laviolette, I thought it was earlier in the week, but I think he's going back in for his second interview today or tomorrow. I heard there might be one other person getting a second interview there, which I haven't pinned down yet. But I do think they'll talk to Hines. Like, if anyone knows Hines, it's Drury. I believe at the beginning of this week, Laviolette was sort of like, if we're doing this as a horse race, Willie, I think Laviolette was the favorite. Was the horse with the inside track, and nothing yet has happened that has made me change my mind.
Okay, so the fact that it's taken this long, because it looked like it was, you know, people were thinking it's almost a done deal here, and it's now lagged for a couple days. You still think he's there?
I thought he was going in earlier in the week. I don't think he did now. I think he's going into the air tomorrow. So it hasn't changed my opinion. It's just my timeline was a little bit off, which won't be the first or last time that happens, unfortunately.
Well, another thing I know you're following very closely is the absolute circus in Toronto, and now the latest chapter, Kyle Dubas indeed takes the gig in Pittsburgh. But it was interesting. I saw the title is President of Hockey Ops, which I think is also very intriguing. I'm sure it was for you. So tell me what you see his role there. So I guess he did not want a buffer between him and ownership. Is that fair to say?
Yes. I think there were two things that Dubas really wanted here. Number one is I think he wants the GM role, maybe not the name, but he likes that role, Willie. I don't think he wants to be in boardrooms all the time. I heard that's one of the things he kind of even agreed about with Shanahan. I don't want to be meeting with the board all the time. I don't want to be doing that stuff. I want to be at the games. I want to run a hockey team. I think that's his desire. So that's one thing. But I do think he wanted more say. Like, one of the things he battled with Toronto about was he wanted at least the ability to talk to the board directly. And that was not going to happen there. That will happen with the ownership in Pittsburgh. So that's one thing. Now, the reason I think the GM title was not given is that, well, first of all, today he said he thinks that they will have trouble getting permission to talk to people at the draft or before the draft. And, you know, as we've seen, Calgary has some restrictions on Toronto's GM, Treliving now. He can't sit at the table at the draft, for example. So he's punted it into July. Now, the one thing I think about that, Willie, is that sometimes to get people from other organizations, you have to be able to promote them. Like, you know, if like teams are not going to let good people leave for what they see as lateral moves. And by leaving the GM spot open, Dubas can go after someone on another team and say, I'm going to promote them, so you let them talk to us. And I think that's part of the whole – I think that's part of, like, some people really get hung up there in titles, Willie. Like, I don't care. You can call me Sportsnet reporter. You can call me Sportsnet garbage picker-upper. Like, I don't care what my title is. I really don't. Some people really care about that.
Elliot, before we let you go, you know, you pride yourself. You find if a GM will not let Derek calls it let you behind the curtain, right? Some GMs are going to put the iron curtain down, and publicly they're just not going to tell the media a whole lot of anything. They're not going to show their hand. Barry Trotz was almost an open book yesterday. There was so much material for us just with his philosophy going forward here. He was talking about all the draft picks he had and how he wouldn't rule out packaging some to move up in the draft. He was talking about teams up against the salary cap. We could go get a guy. If that person's available, I would. He even said, would I listen to somebody trading for one of my goaltenders if they would offer me, say, the third or fourth pick in the draft? It was really interesting how he was basically, you know, throwing a lot of things out there for us to chew on here as media. Did you notice some of that?
I did. I mean, the clip that I thought was the most interesting one was the one about the draft where he said, I can find third and fourth liners, go out and take some swings. Like, I like that kind of thinking. I thought that was really interesting. I think what we learned about Barry Trotz yesterday as a manager is this. When, like, he's not going to leak a lot of stuff. He's not going to tell you a lot of things. But when he's ready in advance, but when he's ready to talk to you, when the moment comes where he's going to talk, he's going to tell you stuff. Like when you go to a Barry Trotz press conference, you better have a lot of digital space available in your studio.
Right.
Okay? Because like that's what we learned about him yesterday, is that when I'm ready to talk, I'll talk. And when I'm ready to talk, you're going to get stuff. So I think that's what we have to prepare for. Like, there's a book on every general manager. What's every manager like? Well, we got a page out of the Trotz book yesterday, and that's what it was.
Sportsnet garbage picker-upper, Elliot Friedman. No, I'm just kidding. Elliot, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on.
No worries, guys. Have a great weekend.
Awesome. You too. Thanks, Elliot. Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet and the 32 Thoughts podcast. He is the very best. And I think that's true. I think that's what we did learn about Barry. We're going to get little breadcrumbs as the year goes on. We'll learn what Barry Trotz is like as a general manager. It's kind of what we learned with the coach situation. I'm evaluating until all of a sudden he's done evaluating and we're moving on. We're getting another coach. But let's get into your thoughts on that. The text line is loaded. We've got Preds thoughts. We've got Titans thoughts. We've got sitcom thoughts. So we are right to those coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Right to your phones coming up next. Hey, tune in for Nashville Sounds Baseball tonight at 6:04 p.m. on 94.9 The Fan. Awfully prompt, 6:04 p.m. The Sounds take on the Charlotte Knights, the AAA affiliate of the Chicago White Sox. Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by 312 Pizza Company, Farm Bureau Health Plans, and Family Leisure. 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Every day we are live and local.
Are you going to pay $20.2 million for someone who's struggling this much to stay healthy?
And your source for Nashville sports.
The players got to play better, and they're the ones actually out on the court, and they got to execute.
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The Electronic Express Memorial Day sale is ending soon. Don't miss a Hisense 65-inch 4K TV for just $349 or a GE Profile laundry pair for $599 each. Electronic Express has huge savings in every department: computers, appliances, 4K TVs, smart home, furniture and mattresses, and more. Get an Acer gaming laptop for just $599 or a Sony Bluetooth speaker for only $39. Get up to 3 years free financing throughout the entire store. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
High interest rates may be the norm everywhere else. But right now at Genesis Diamonds, we're always thinking about our customers, and we've decided to slash interest rates down to 0% for 5 years. That means you can get those diamond earrings, that designer engagement ring, or that luxury pre-owned Rolex and spread your payments over 5 whole years without paying a dime in interest. Birthdays, anniversaries, just because gifts starting as low as $35 a month. And that's with 0 down. Now through July 1st only. And only at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. Approved credit. See store for details.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Join 102.5 The Game and 94.9 The Fan on June 6th for a night of music benefiting Souls for Souls at the Night Before Charities Riders Round featuring Saving Abel. General admission is $20, with every ticket going to purchase a new pair of shoes for a child experiencing homelessness. It's happening at the all-new Ballad East next to the Gallatin Hotel in East Nashville. Lineup also includes Louis Bryce, Brian Davis, Austin Ellis, as well as Lee and Tiffany Turner. Doors open at 6 o'clock. Get your tickets now at thegamenashville.com/golf.
Time to save cash fast with the 102.5 The Game Deal of the Week. Get a $30 gift card to Central Barbecue for half off at thegamenashville.com/deals. A $30 gift card for just $15 at thegamenashville.com/deals. Smoke is our sauce at Central Barbecue. Visit their newest location in Hillsboro Village. Get them while they last at thegamenashville.com/deals.
Want to weigh in on the conversation? It's a brain booster. Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Hey, you can join us on June 6th for the Night Before Charity Riders Round featuring Saving Abel, benefiting Souls for Souls. General admission is $20, with every single ticket going to purchase a new pair of shoes for a child experiencing homelessness in Middle Tennessee. It's happening at the brand new venue, the Ballad East, next to the Gallatin Hotel in East Nashville. Doors open at 6 p.m. Get your tickets now at thegamenashville.com/golf. Unless we have some thoughts?
Let's go to the phone.
Let's get to the phones. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you have a thought. One texter texts in and says, I wasn't an original Predators fan when they moved to town, but is this sort of the same dynamic between Barry Trotz and Andrew Brunette that Poyle and Trotz had when they came to town? Willie, you can probably answer this a lot better than I could.
Wait, say what are they asking again?
Is the relationship, or what we think the relationship is going to be like between Trotz and Brunette, similar to the relationship that Poyle and Trotz had?
It's a good question. I think it'll be different only because Barry Trotz has that coaching DNA that David Poyle never really had. David Poyle was a front office guy from the start. He was an assistant general manager even before he became a general manager. And so, he doesn't have that perspective from sitting down on the bench and watching the game. And Andrew Brunette, this interview is coming out tomorrow, by the way. I was just told that I taped with him for NashvillePredators.com. I asked him about the different perspectives, being an assistant GM, being a director of, player development, a scout, sitting in those different chairs as well as being an assistant coach and then a head coach last year. I think that probably leads to or lends itself to a different relationship. And also, and I think the one similarity might be just knowing each other so much. Like David Poile selected Barry Trotz, who was an unknown 36-year-old coach. Like there were all these other guys. Like we talk about right now, there's several jobs open. Is Peter Laviolette going to get another job? Probably somewhere. Is John Hines going to get another job? Is Gerard Gallant? Guys who have done it in the league year after year, different places. There's that musical chairs. David Poile could have hired one of those guys in 1997, but he chose Barry Trotz, who nobody had heard of. You're like, Barry Trotz? Like, I think people in the NHL circles probably didn't know much about him. People in Nashville knew absolutely zero about him. Like I'm sure he was living in Nashville for about a year, and the neighbors were like, "Oh, who's this nice guy over that just moved over here? Oh, he's the coach of the hockey team? Like what? He's the
nice
coach?
Canadian
He's
fella.
a nice guy. Yeah, who's this guy?" Like he was totally anonymous, like had no star power at all, but he turned out to be the right guy. So I do think there was a lot of respect between David Poile and Barry Trotz, and I think that same respect is there between Andrew Brunette and Barry Trotz because they know each other so well. They go back so far.
And I think, the element of being friends and having that relationship is similar, but the dynamic as coach and GM is probably a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Friends, how many of us have them? No.
And I think Andrew Brunette would tell you too that they can get an argument like they know each other so like Barry Trotz. He says, Andrew Brunette says, I don't think I would have become an NHL player if Barry Trotz weren't as tough on me in the minor leagues as he was. Right? I think the message was, look, do you want to be a player or do you want to be an NHL player?
Right.
If you want to be an NHL player, here's what you have to get. So those hard conversations, that probably makes it easier for them to have hard conversations that are to come inevitably, right? There's going to be some hard days where they meet and it's like, boy, that game didn't go very well last night. What do we do?
Right.
Like
a sibling relationship.
Yeah.
No one's meaner to you than your sibling, but also no one's going to go to bat for you more than your sibling.
Exactly.
One texter texts in about D-Hop says, according to a report, DeAndre Hopkins has an interest in going back to the Texans. If that's the case, then I don't know why he wouldn't consider the Titans. I did see that. Brooks Kubina, great reporter, love the guy, covers the Texans for the Houston Chronicle, and he did report that DeAndre Hopkins has expressed interest in coming back to the Texans. I don't know what with the desire to go back to Houston is. Maybe C.J. Stroud. Maybe he likes DeMeco Ryans. Maybe he likes the up-and-comingness of Houston. But if I'm D-Hop, I'm not trying to stick around for a rebuild.
No, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he and DeMeco Ryans played together for a stint there in Houston, if I'm not mistaken, toward the latter part of Ryan's career. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on that. Or he was on that coaching staff. And that's the team that drafted him. So I'm sure there's this, there's still that he still has that soft spot in his heart for Houston. It's not like he wanted to leave Houston. They traded him. O'Brien traded him, got him
for
out there.
For a bag of donuts.
Exactly. So it's not like he was beating down the door to get out of there. At least to my knowledge, I don't think he was. So I'm sure, if that question was asked of him, would you be willing to potentially go back to Houston? I'm sure he said, yeah. I mean, why not? I mean, that's the team that drafted me. So I can go back there because there's a relationship. They drafted me. That's like, if I was getting ready to retire, it was like, okay, I want to sign back with the Titans. And why? Because they drafted me. But the Titans at that particular time, I don't know who the GM was. Reinfeldt, one of those guys. They were thinking something else. But my thought was, man, I can go back to Tennessee and, finish out my career and then retire there. I was a free agent. So when you have a player, when you've been drafted by someone and the relationship has been good and you had good times there, you're toward the end of your career, a part of you would love to go back there. So I'm not discounting that. I'm just saying there are a lot of other chips that has to just fall out of the way in order for that to happen.
That makes sense. Kind of the sentimental aspect there. And that's another aspect to the Titans and D-Hop potential marriage of the relationship and the history with Mike Vrabel and Tim Kelly. Diop played in Houston when those two were coordinators in Houston. I don't know what kind of relationship they have, but there's at least history there.
Yeah, there's history. But, I mean, is it enough history for him to say, okay, I come there because, you were on the coaching staff when I played there. So is there enough?
And how important is that to him?
Yeah.
Does he want to go somewhere where he already has a relationship with the coaching staff? Like New England is another dark horse team that's been thrown out there for DeAndre Hopkins. The D-Hop Bill O'Brien connection. I don't know how great of a relationship they have.
But I think if that happened, it's more so because of Bill Belichick.
Maybe so.
And his love for DeAndre Hopkins than anything. Damn what O'Brien says. If Bill wants him, you're going to get him.
What Bill says,
exactly.
Bill gets. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Let's have some fun coming up next, led by Derek Mason.
Woohoo!
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025-1063, The Game.
The NFL offseason is in full swing, but you'll never miss any of the big news. Thanks to Yahoo's Charles Robinson.
They know that there's a chance that they're going to have to deal this guy.
He's one of the best insiders there is.
All of a sudden, he becomes a functional player who we thought was just trash.
Join Charles Robinson every Thursday morning at 8 on Robbie and Rex Road, presented by the NFL Alumni Association on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Do you take pride in your work? Do you want to help build Nashville? You need to join Ironworkers Local 492. They build Nashville, working on everything from steel erection on buildings and bridges, plant maintenance, concrete, reinforcing, conveyor work, sheeting, welding, rigging, fence erecting, curtain wall, window wall, and a variety of other specialty work. They provide the best skilled ironworkers for contractors and projects in Nashville. If you want to build Nashville, you want to be proud of doing it, visit ironworkers492.org. Join Ironworkers Local 492.
CMA Fest is happening in downtown Nashville, June 8th through 11th, with dozens of performances by many of today's hottest black country artists, including K. Michelle, Chapel Hart, the TSU Aristocratic Bands, Breland, and many more. Proceeds benefit the CMA Foundation and music education programs. Visit CMAFest.com for details.
AM radio provides always-on news, sports, talk, traffic, and weather reports. And it's also a vital service that provides important emergency information when your community needs it most. Tell Congress you need AM radio to stay in your car. Because when cell phones and the internet are down, this free emergency service is critical. And when you don't have electricity, radio in the car is often your only lifeline. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
If you're drowning in IRS debt and can't afford to pay, then you need to take advantage of special IRS tax programs that are available and free yourself from IRS collection efforts once and for all. Due to the financial hardship consumers are facing throughout the country, the Internal Revenue Service has made it easier to settle delinquent tax problems. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Take down this number or store it in your cell phone, but call the Community Tax Helpline at 800-587-5063. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back, or even if you have years of unfiled tax returns, there's no need to fear anymore. But you have to call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-587-5063 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-587-5063 for your free consultation and to see if you qualify. That's 800-587-5063.
Hey, it's Jared. If you're listening to us on I-24 towards Murfreesboro or I-65 towards Spring Hill, make sure you check out 106.3 for another great way to hear Nashville's best sports talk.
Hey, this is Pete Weber. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. This week's Nashville's best deal is Central Barbecue in Hillsboro Village. Central Barbecue is a slow-cooked Memphis-style barbecue restaurant where their motto is "Smoke is our sauce." Go to thegamenashville.com/deals for a half off a $30 gift card to Central Barbecue today. It is time for Would You Rather. Derek Mason is in the questions chair today. D-Mase, take it away.
Absolutely. I'm back in the questions chair again.
And we found this out, Caroline, on Ask D-Mase on Friday. This song is not only Derek's theme song for the silly underdog picks. It's not only the walk-up song when he goes to bat in a charity softball game or if he were to make a comeback as a baseball player, but this is his theme song following him around.
Yes,
in
everywhere.
Life. That was an Ask D-Mase. D-Mase, if you were just walking around, what song is playing in the background? Like, what's your theme song of your life?
Grease Lightning.
And this is it.
Love it. I love it. You're very dedicated and loyal to the song, D-Mase.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
He also believes he could beat John Travolta in Grease with the Bullet.
Exactly.
His
definitely.
first car, the old beat-up Bullet, he could soup it up, and he could beat John Travolta in the do-or-die drag race.
I don't know the Bullet, but I would agree with that.
Yeah, because,
and
I mean,
Craterface
would have won,
Yeah.
but he tried too many tricks. He wasn't concentrating on winning the race. He just didn't want to lose. That's why he's so he should have been concentrating on winning the race. Leatherface, Craterface, excuse me, not Leatherface.
Might as well be letter.
Is another
Whatever
movie.
kind of face you got, you're not winning.
All right, here we go. Would you rather? Which one do y'all want first? You want the sports end, or you want the?
I'm feeling sports
non-sport?
today. Let's go sports first, and then we'll end with the non-sports.
Okay. Would you rather go one round with MMA great John Jones, or go one round with Mike Tyson in his prime? Which one would you rather do?
I don't even know if I know who John Jones is.
The guy's a beast.
All I know
MMA,
is, when I think MMA, I think of like my arms getting dislocated, like shoulders. My shoulders start feeling like I just feel like I'd be contorted and twisted, and like stuff would be popping out of sockets and stuff. I feel like I could take a couple of big punches and just go down if I needed to.
Yeah.
And maybe I get one lucky shot in. So I think I'm going to take on Mike Tyson. I think I'm going to take Mike Tyson.
I think I'm going to do Mike Tyson, too. MMA gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit. I get a little woozy when I just think about, like, going shin to shin. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
When I was an intern at ESPN, we would have different stations that we would go to. And there was a couple of weeks span that they put me with the MMA team. And I thought, I don't know what about me and my resume makes you think that MMA is really my bread and butter, but it is not. Great time, great people. Had a hard time cutting highlights of MMA.
Yeah.
Just blood doesn't do it for me.
Brutal.
So I'll go with Mike Tyson, the GOAT.
Oh, man.
Maybe Mike Tyson has the Apollo Creed. He just takes me lightly. You know, just like Rocky 1. He's just kind of he's putting on a show. He's just saying, okay,
but John Jones can do that too.
And I get one good shot in.
But you're not gonna. I don't know if you're gonna get that one good shot in.
Probably not.
I don't think you're gonna get it with John Jones either. But.
No, that's what I'm saying. But John Jones, once he decides he's coming after me, he's gonna contort me. My limbs will be bending the wrong way, and I'm just done. I could have a career-ending injury there. With Mike Tyson, a couple of shots, I go down. You know,
it don't even have to be a shot. It just be a whiff, and you're going down like the wind from a Tyson.
That's
punch.
right. I could act. It could be an act.
It's like that
a
scene from The
phantom
Hangover.
Punch.
When they say, you just took a punch from Mike Tyson. Like, there's something special about
Absolutely.
that. I can carry that with me.
I didn't even consider that.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're on the same page.
Yeah,
on
Mike
this one.
Tyson all day.
Mike
Tyson. I think Nick, I may go with the Mike Tyson. Are you with Mike Tyson or John Jones? Because I think you know a little bit more about MMA.
Mike Tyson.
Hey, Mike, I didn't say that. That was Nick.
Watch out.
That was
Mike's
staff member Nick.
Staff member Nick. We're going to sit into Mike.
Staff member Nick.
Quick side note to that. I played with his brother, Arthur Jones, in Baltimore. That whole family, man, they are athletes. His brother, obviously, Super Bowl winner with the New England Patriots. And I think, did Arthur win one with Baltimore? Did he leave before they won one? I don't know. But those three brothers, I mean, they're just tremendous athletes. And I've only met, obviously, Arthur. He's a tremendous person. Haven't met the other two. So, all right. Want the sports one? Or you want something else? What do you want?
Well, I thought we just did the sports, so let's
yo
to
okay.
non-sports.
Oh, you want to go? Okay. Would you rather have a photographic memory or an IQ of 200?
Oh. Well, I guess with a photographic memory, I could know anything that I want. So I guess that would almost give me a really high IQ. So I guess
it couldn't hurt.
It couldn't hurt.
Yeah, it couldn't hurt, I guess.
So I think I would go photographic memory.
Okay.
I think I would.
But that means you would have to see it to know it.
That's true. Yeah, but I think I would if I see it, let's say if I'm studying for a test, then I'll just take a picture in my mind and I know everything.
But the IQ doesn't necessarily, I mean, with an IQ of 200, it's like, it's not necessarily book stuff that I need to know. It's just, I know everything. Like my IQ, I can sit and have a conversation with anybody about just about anything. Well, hell, with anything,
true.
you know?
It's a little bit more versatile.
Yeah, I would think.
I would go
my
with
IQ is not
photographic
200,
memory,
so,
probably.
you know.
How do you get? I mean, how do you?
You got to be born with that, Willie.
I'm also wondering, like, how do you get diagnosed or anointed? You have a photographic, like, how do you know?
Well, some people do. Like,
I know it
They just,
exists,
like,
but
recall
like,
things.
Yeah, just
I think
recall
that
things.
term gets thrown out there. The person doesn't actually have, like, they may have a good memory, but
But
like,
not a
what is
photographic
truly a photograph? Like, I used to hear stuff about this guy has a photographic memory, but he's like, he got C's in class. So like, how do you not get all A's if you have a photographic memory?
But also, I think about, like,
Didn't you just like look over the notes and you should have them in your head? They should be there.
like you'd probably be a great football coach if you had a photographic memory, or a great
Yeah.
football player because you can pick up on the playbook so easily.
Yeah.
Like I think Sean McVay. I don't know if he has a photographic memory, if he's just like a football savant, but he can recall like any play at any point in time from however long ago. I feel that's kind of along the same lines.
Yeah.
I think you
Yeah.
could apply a photographic memory to so many different things. If you're an actor or an actress, you can just the script. You
But
know
I
it.
guess
save a lot of time.
photographic memory
Yeah.
is more
Seem.
so of experiences. I'm thinking more so of experiences, and you know, if I go one place, I remember everything about that place. I
That's
just
true.
go one. Or if I travel somewhere, and you ask me, you put me back at point A, and you ask me to travel again without any maps or any, I can get to where I need to get because I know from my photographic memory how to get there. And I think we all have that to a certain extent. Like we can go somewhere. Like I was back in Baltimore last week, and I was traveling down this road that I hadn't been on in 10 plus years. But I knew exactly what was coming up, the things on the side. It was a little side road. I knew where my old house was. So, you know, that's sort of like a photographic memory in a sense, you know.
What would be funny is like, would you rather have a photographic memory but a low IQ, or a 200 IQ and no memory at all, like a goldfish?
I don't know.
Like that'd
Sometimes
be
that might come in handy.
either one would be a problem. We'd
Yeah.
have a set of problems. Which that's a funny one. That's good. I think I'll take the 200 IQ.
I think I'll take the 200 IQ too.
Give me the photographic memory.
Give me the IQ. What about you, Nick? You want the IQ or the photographic memory?
I'll say photographic memory because I don't remember street names very often. Like I remembered, okay, I used to turn by Black IP to go to high school, or I know where the Preds Arena is, and so I can go to all these different places down here, or hey, Centennial Park is right across the street from where I play hockey. Like I always knew that growing up. So when I learned how to drive, it made it 10 times easier for me.
Yeah, I don't know street names. I just, you go down this way,
Yeah.
and then you took
Turn
go this way,
right.
then bing bong, take a
Old
left, take a
John
right,
always
you
is
get
on
there.
the corner, so I
Yeah.
know he and his homeboys sitting right there. They're talking, so I know to make a left.
Yeah.
You know how old folks say,
Yeah.
hey, go like 5 blocks down. You see Mary Lou's house. You make a left at that house, and then John's house has the purple door, so you make it right there. So it's just like,
And
okay.
if you see the yellow house, you went too far.
Exactly. If you see the yellow house, you went 3 houses too far.
Let's do one more sports one.
One more sports one. Okay, this one is right up your alley, Willie. Would you rather have a wicked R.A. Dickey knuckleball, or you like this one, a Randy Johnson's fastball?
Ooh. On the left side.
Ooh, a lefty too. You a lefty, Willie?
Oh yeah.
Ah.
Man. Gosh. You know, I think I've got to take it. This is a great question. This is a great question because if you have the knuckleball, and I just saw RA last week. He's the pitching coach for his son's team, CPA. They lost in the finals, but he came. He had some mound visits. He was out there. I'll bet you he could still go out there and pitch 5 innings in a big league game if he's ready with the knuckleball. Like that's the thing about the knuckleball. You could keep going. You keep going.
Sort of like a jump shooter.
Yeah. And it's so hard to perfect, but if you do perfect it, you're going to be out there for a long time. But man, that feeling of a Randy Johnson fastball, which I never had. If I had something anywhere close to that, I think I would have made it. But it's so rare. I'd take the Randy Johnson fastball.
Okay.
As a lifelong Arizona Diamondbacks fan of about 2 months, give me the Randy Johnson fastball.
Oh, okay. I see the suit back there. Let the suit answer this.
I know someone from Arizona.
He's saying Arizona.
Yeah. I went to
Hey, Sue, you answer this. You're behind the glass. You answer that one. R.A. Dickey's knuckleball. R.A. Dickey. Would you rather have R.A. Dickey's knuckleball or Randy Johnson's fastball?
Randy Johnson's fastball all day.
Okay.
Because this is the
He killed a bird.
He did.
Rest in peace to the bird.
That is on
Rest in peace to the
YouTube.
bird. Yes.
That is on
Yes,
YouTube.
yes.
It's quite spectacular. Not in a good way for the bird.
Excellent.
But the thing about Randy Johnson's fastball is he had it for a long time. Like he pitched until he was 40. So he didn't have the fastball for like 1 year and just had a great year and then fizzled. Right? That was a long-lasting special fastball. That's the tiebreaker for me.
Okay. Nick, fastball?
Yeah, I would say the fastball too. It did kill the bird, but I would always rather be fast with something like that. Like I had a good slap shot as a kid growing up, so I would go with that too.
We do not promote any killing of birds. So
No.
let us say that.
Listen,
it was very
PETA.
sad.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Before we get
Randy's fault.
canceled
It
by
wasn't
PETA.
Randy's fault.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
but
bird.
how many animals did the bird run over? No, I'm sorry, the bullet run over.
I'm not going to even get into that question.
Okay, but here is the greatest bird story of all time. This was the early 80s. The Yankees are
Larry
in
Bird?
Toronto. No, not Larry Bird.
Okay.
If you ever been to Toronto, there's seagulls flying all over the place, right? Now they play in a retractable roof, but they used to play right on the lake, and there were seagulls everywhere, the old exhibition stadium. The Yankees were there. Dave Winfield was throwing the ball in from the outfield, not while the game was going. He was just throwing the ball in, and he hit a seagull and killed it.
Oh,
totally accidentally, right? They arrested him after the game.
Did
No
they?
way.
Yes, for cruelty to animals.
Oh, my goodness.
And I don't know. I still to this day don't know if it was like just
What?
kind of playing a gag on him, like,
No,
or just trying to
God,
road
please, no.
the superstar on the Yankees. Let's give him a hard
wow.
time, kind of thing. But it's like they booked him. They made a big deal out of it, and I think they eventually got it taken care of. You know, it's a 3-game series, so the Yankees were there for a few days, but he had to go down to the police station and stuff.
Lord.
He was
That
like, I
is
didn't mean to do
wild.
it.
That
I think,
is wild.
you know, I think I will because I just think, and I'm not, never played baseball, so Willy correct me on this. I just think a fastball over time, it'll just kill your rotator cuff. Just in your elbow, just constantly throwing it. You have to throw it. And that was your only pitch. You just throw it.
R.A. famously had a great fastball. Like he was drafted as a conventional. Like when he was at Tennessee and going up at Montgomery Bell, he was a flamethrower. He was an All-American at Tennessee, pitched for the Olympic team, and only changed to the knuckleball over time, but then he mastered it. So, but the wear and tear on the arm, obviously, that's not all you have to have. But once you master the knuckleball, there's much less wear and tear.
Yeah.
And you can
See,
just keep going.
I'll take the knuckleball.
And a lot of wear and
I'll
tear
take
on
the
birds
knuckleball.
as well.
Yep.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. I told myself not to get my hopes up. I told myself over and over again, yet my hopes got up and my hopes got crushed. We will explain coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Manich joins Stillman and Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Let's tell you once again about Loan Pronto. Remember, they have the financial game plan that is helping so many people out there attack their needs financially. If you need some cash, that is really what it's all about. If you are looking for, say, a home improvement project or just simply to pay some bills that maybe have a high interest rate and that mountain keeps getting a little bit bigger and you're like, I need to get this down to zero. You can be credit card debt-free, for example, in about 10 days through Loan Pronto and the All Express Equity line of credit. 7 to 10 days, Then you get your check and you get that credit card bill down to nothing, or you pay that big bill that's been sitting there and you're wondering, how am I going to do this? Tap into that home's equity. They can do that through Loan Pronto with an all-digital process, very streamlined. They get it done. 9 out of 10 homeowners don't even need an appraisal in this situation, so it's much easier than it used to be to do this type of thing thanks to Loan Pronto. So call right now, 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Interest rates may be high everywhere else, but now at Genesis Diamonds, you can get 0 interest on any purchase. 5 years, 0 interest financing with nothing down. Beautiful eternity bands, 1-carat diamond stud earrings, and more. Starting at only $50 a month. At Genesis, we are always looking for ways to do more for our amazing customers. So don't miss this. 5 years, 0 interest financing. Imagine that $6,000 designer ring is just $100 a month. We'll even finance the sales tax. Now through July 1st only. And only at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. On approved credit, see store for details.
Men, this is Evan Bass for the Tennessee Men's Clinic. If you're suffering with erectile dysfunction or other sexual health issues, you need to know that there is no one-size-fits-all treatment because everyone's made differently. That's why our urologists and medical providers offer a broader array of treatment options and can even combine or adjust treatments for greater effectiveness. ED can result from aging, low testosterone, prostate issues, underlying medical conditions, and more. And understanding why you have ED is the first step in treating the condition. That's why you need to know your numbers and understand what other factors might be contributing, and then work with an expert to treat it. And that's where we shine. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we have protocols that are effective in nearly 90% of cases, which means we'll likely find the right treatment for you and you can get your sex life back. So call us. Your first appointment includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. We have 2 offices to serve you, Midtown and Franklin.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra, results vary.
Bar Lines in the Omni Nashville Hotel stays true to the spirit of Music City, the perfect spot for sports and arena concert fans year-round. Savor Bar Lines Originals, the Bar Line Barbecue Burger or Midtown Mushroom Swiss Burger. Excite your taste buds with the Sobro Grinder with smoked turkey, the Boss Hog with whiskey braised pork butt, and the Angry Chicken, pickle brine fried chicken breast with honey sriracha. Attending an event downtown? Bar Lines in the Omni Nashville Hotel, open daily at 11 a.m. is a great way to kick off your afternoon or evening.
They're homegrown in Nashville, discussing the biggest topics in the SEC.
The fans are going to want the rivalries to stick around. They've lost to Alabama every year.
The NFL.
What if all the top 3 quarterbacks went 1, 2, 3? You've got to draft your guy at 2.
And anything in between.
From thinking we know everything to then forgetting about everything we thought we knew the day before.
They're Jonathan Hutton and Chad Withrow on Outkick's Hot Mic.
Out of the gates, ready to go.
Weekdays from 2 to 5 on 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app. Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
What is your message to those fans, the media, whoever it is that's constantly concocting a way for you to come back?
I'm certain I'm not playing again, so I've tried to make that clear, and I hate to continue to profess that because I've already told people that lots of times, but I'm looking forward to my broadcasting job at Fox next year. I'm looking forward to the opportunity ahead with the Raiders, and we're in the process of that, along with the other different things that I'm a part of professionally and in my personal life, just spending as much time with my kids as I can and seeing them grow up and support the different things that they have going on. And that's a very important job, and I take them all pretty seriously.
Dang it! That was Tom Brady with Sports Illustrated.
That's no fun.
On the grid today at 12:45. Tom Brady isn't coming back, is he? There's no way, right? Like, there's no way he's quarterbacking for the Raiders this season. Wait, there's no way. Or is he actually? I was trying to taper my excitement in the hope that I had that maybe Tom Brady could come back.
Just maybe?
Maybe, just maybe he could come back. And then I see that clip on Twitter and it said down with Sports Illustrated, kind of poo-pooed that idea. I knew he wasn't going to come back. I knew it. I knew he wasn't going to unretire twice. I knew that under all the circumstances with, his personal life and how he felt and looked at the end of last season, I knew there was no way he was coming back. And then And then a headline on CBS Sports said Tom Brady tops the list of Raiders quarterback options if Jimmy Garoppolo gets cut due to his foot injury. And I thought, so you're saying there's a chance?
Well, what Tom is saying, no, there's not a chance. Listen,
Bummer.
Tom was forced to retire 2 years ago. Everybody knew it. If you didn't know it, I mean, you could just sit in his face. It was almost like pushed upon him, thrust upon him. People wanted him to retire. And he just folded under the pressure of, and listen, it was the pressure of his family more than likely, and you get it, you know, your family wants you there more, and they're pleading for you to hang it up. You've had a career that many can't even dream of. You've had it. Why keep going? Mm-hmm. And to me, when he retired the first time, I said he was forced in. That was a forced retirement. He's coming back. He came back. This one wasn't a forced retirement.
This was on his own.
Yeah, this one was like, okay, I had a great season statistically. I got our team into the playoffs, which that division was horrible the year they made it to the playoffs.
Horrible.
It was horrid.
Still is horrible.
Yeah, still is bad.
Somebody's going to win it.
So bad.
But I think I'm not going to say satisfied, but listen, he did all he could do. And it's like, okay, now I came back that season. I played it out. I left on a statistical high note. Mm-hmm. Yes, I didn't win a Super Bowl, but not many people get an opportunity to be Jerome Bettis. You win a Super Bowl, your year you retire in the state that you were born in, the city that you were born and went to high school in, Detroit. Big ups to Detroit. What up, though? But this wasn't forced. It was just, I'm retiring. I'm done. I've did all I could. I'm done. So I don't think he's coming back. I mean, he enjoys what he's doing now, and he's about to be, have a stake in Vegas Raiders. And he just said he's mentioned other things that he's doing, and he gets to spend more time with his kids. So,
I had a question about, having a stake in the Raiders and being the Fox lead announcer. Mm-hmm. Isn't that a little bit of a conflict of interest? Like, it's not like you have guys in the booth that work for a team. Mm-hmm. I mean, technically, he's working for a team. Like, can he not do Raiders games? Insider information. I mean, there's just a lot of questions I would have.
I don't know if they would have him doing Raider games. I don't think the Raiders are good enough for you to even want to do any of their games. I mean, honestly.
I mean, Fox doesn't have as many AFC games, right. but I mean, it could happen.
I'm sure, but unless the Raiders start off 7-0, something like that, how many prime time? Because he's going to be on the first crew, not this upcoming season, but next season, right? He's going to be on the first crew. But how many chances or how many opportunities the Vegas Raiders are going to get to be, that marquee team with that first
and on
guys?
It may not be Fox, the first year, but I'm thinking if he does it long enough, right, and he stays involved, eventually.
Well, I guess that's sort of kind of.
So I'm just wondering, is the league all right with that? Like, just because Tom Brady, he can do pretty much whatever he wants. I mean, it just. To me, that's sort of – I can't think of another situation where a guy who had a stake in a team was the broadcaster. I mean, from a pure journalistic standpoint.
Peyton Manning doesn't have stake in the Broncos, does he?
I don't know.
Or did they reach out to him about potentially having ownership stake? I don't think that he does, but that would be the only other potential conflict of interest that I could think of a broadcaster. I know Peyton Manning wouldn't have the involvement in calling games that Tom Brady has, but I mean, he has his media group. He's works with ESPN.
But he wouldn't be a part of the day-to-day or decision. From what I understand, his
but I don't
stake
think he
would
has
have
ownership
any. Yeah, he wouldn't have no ties to decision making or what they're doing in the front office. So would it be a conflict of interest? I mean, I don't know. It could be. I don't know.
Well, I read an article this morning that talked about before my dreams and hopes were crushed by Tom Brady saying he wasn't coming back. And I'm not even like a Tom Brady fangirl. I just like the drama of it all.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Tom Brady coming back for the third time? But
you should have been around when Muhammad Ali was coming back. Remember Muhammad? How many times
Reggie White did it 3 times, didn't he? 2 or 3 times.
The golden ages.
Yeah.
And with Brett Favre. But I read an article that said if Tom Brady did want to come back and play for the Raiders, then it wouldn't be a conflict of interest for him to play for the Raiders and have ownership in the Raiders.
The owners,
but that would be kind of different.
The other owners would have to sign off on it.
Yes.
If they didn't sign off on it, then he would have to sort of sell away his stock or stake in the Raiders until he's done playing. But all of the owners will have to sign off on it. And as we know, nobody really likes the Vegas Raiders or the Oakland Raiders, so they probably wouldn't sign off on it, you know?
That's true. That's true. That's just a bummer.
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to miss those days when Tom Brady was playing.
Well, no.
I think we all will. That is going to do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Stillman & Company is up next.
Be loved and love of somebody. Peace.